It is 6 a.m. in the Mile High City. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, most importantly, though, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Phone lines are open at 303-696-1971, or you can text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Biggest news breaking yesterday evening about 7 p.m., the man himself, DJT Donald Trump, will be in Aurora, Colorado this Friday, October 11th. October 11th, 10 a.m. doors open, rally at 1 p.m. You can get tickets. By the way, this will be at the Gaylord in Aurora. You can get tickets if you go to my x.com account. I have them linked right there. Trump in Colorado this Friday at the Gaylord. 1 p.m. The rally begins. Doors open around 10. You can get the tickets. Go to x.com/Jeff Hunt. I have the link right there. You got to register quick because I imagine this may, knowing the Gaylord, I hosted a big event there one time. It could sell out.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how many tickets they've allocated, what their footprint is that they're doing. Because again, you've planned things there. I'm curious on the back end of, okay, what ballroom or what area are they using? What's the total capacity? And you know this as well as I do, that you, in these type of free events, you don't give out enough free tickets to fill the room. You give out enough to free tickets plus a percentage.
Yeah, about 10%.
And you've got to figure out what that is. Yeah, what you believe that is, that people just aren't going to show up. So, yeah.
Because when it's free, people go, I drank a lot last night. I might sleep in this
exactly. Morning. And because it's free, there's no cost to not going. There's no opportunity cost by saying you just miss out on the event and you're not giving up money. So many times, that happens. So there's
and if it's going to be inside or outside, I think the weather's expected to be pretty good. So I think there's enough on the north side of the Gaylord. They have some property. The Gaylord's kind of funny because it's a 5-star like hotel resort with all the stuff inside, great steak, dining. And when you look out the beautiful views of the hotel room, you see row homes in Aurora.
Yeah, and prairie and nothing. That's it. Yeah, it's oddly situated. It
should be situated in like the Alps or something.
But it's not.
No, it's not. So I think they could maybe do it outside on the north side there, but we had a great experience. Lovely people, lovely staff. Gaylord.
Oh, it's a great facility.
Prime resort.
Yeah.
So,
and when we talked about when Donald Trump first announced that he was going to come to Aurora, one of the things that you and I discussed that next morning was he's probably not going down to where the apartment buildings are. And then where would he go?
Whispering Pines.
Yeah. And one of our top 2 places was Gaylord. Yeah, that was one of of the top 2 places we figured he would land.
That or Wings Over the Rockies was another one.
Too. Yep, those would be 2. Yeah, exactly.
So lots to talk about there with regards to, are you going to go? Are you not going to go? What do you think Trump's going to talk about? Obviously, he'll probably going to discuss illegal immigration and the impact it's had on Aurora and the fact that Colorado's a sanctuary state and Denver's a sanctuary city, and the mayor spent $100 million on 40,000 illegal immigrants in Denver. So what else could he be covering? And is this good? Yeah. Is this good for Gabe Evans? Is this good for Lauren Boebert, Jeff Hurd, Jeff Crank?
Yeah. Is there going to be any appearances on stage, or any of them going to get to introduce them before? Yeah,
Mayor Mike running.
Then again,
is that figure we see running out there towards Kansas, Mayor Mike?
Yeah, Mayor Mike running away, and we'll see how well, or if he's here just for himself, or if he's here to put the shine on other candidates. He's not always the best at that when he shows up. He's good at drawing the crowd, but he's not so good at talking about the good things that the other Republicans do. It's just something he does. It's not that he dislikes them. It's just when he gets on stage, it's about
DJT
him.
time.
Yeah, it's about him. It's not about whoever the other candidate is. So we'll have to see how it works out.
And I reflect back on how far Colorado's fallen.
Yeah.
Because when I was coalitions director for Romney here. We probably did a dozen rallies with him.
Oh, wow.
We did one at Fiddler's. We did one at a Jeffco place. We did one down in Pueblo. We did the big one at Red Rocks. We did one at Wings Over the Rockies with Elway. And then we had Paul Ryan coming in. So it was like constant.
Yeah.
And now we maybe get the Republican nominee once
Every few years.
And I'm
maybe.
impressed we even got him this one time because Colorado's not even in play. But with the national news cycle, speaking of the national news cycle, we're going to get to 60 Minutes and Kamala Harris's disastrous interview yesterday with them. But there's just no real point in them coming to Colorado. They'll do a rally every other block in Pennsylvania and North Carolina and Ohio and Michigan and Wisconsin. But in Colorado, you get one visit a year. So take advantage of it.
Yep.
Take your kids out of school. Allow them to be part of the presidential process. Even if, Kamala Harris is coming in, I take your kids to go see it. It happens once every 4 years. We're not in a swing state anymore. You don't get the attention that we used to, and let your kids be part of the process, in my opinion. But we've got a whole lot to cover today. Kamala Harris, Tim Walz interview on 60 Minutes yesterday. That was interesting. Finally got some tough questions. You're not going to want to miss that. We clipped some of the responses. Sam Bandimere is going to join us. He's a candidate for Senate District 19 here in Colorado. Yes, that family, the Bandimere family. Sam's running for Colorado State Senate. And then, bro, a wood chipper story that will hit you hard.
Oh, yeah. That's a little spooky.
Literally nightmares.
Yeah.
Like nightmares. Yes, that happened to a dude in Colorado 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
He's recovering now, but the details on the story are just crazy. So, by the way, is Eric Manning going to go?
I would assume so.
He said it was his idea that we go to the Gaylord. Eric, are you going to be selling burritos? He should be selling burritos. Go. There's going to be a big line, I imagine. You should work the line, get those burritos sold. Be great, Eric. All right. Text us 720-819-5115. Let's check in on news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. Sorry I missed your call last night. I actually went to bed early. I woke up. Whoa, Jeff is calling. That must mean DJT is coming to town.
Coming. That's exactly right. I was calling everybody. I was like, load up. Let's tailgate. Let's have some fun. We may even do a live broadcast. Who knows? We might be down there. So,
hey, there's some construction out there off 470 into that entrance. It may get a little packed there. What is that, 58th and 470, you get on there?
Out there.
Yeah.
When I hosted my event, that was the biggest complaint we had was it was just so far outside of Denver. When I hosted Denver, people complain about it being in Denver. When I hosted outside of Denver, people complain about it being outside of Denver.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm guessing. I'm just taking a guess because I've never been in the building, but I'm guessing they'll do it on the north side, like you guys were talking about, outside maybe. I don't know.
They could do it outside. They also have a beautiful convention area. Yeah, tons of space. We had roughly about 2,000 people at the Western Conservative Summit the year we hosted it out there. But
that's awesome.
It's just beautiful and lots of restaurants. You can eat there. They got a water park. It's a
plenty
great
of
location.
prairie dogs.
Plenty of prairie dogs. Yes, that's right. And track homes from Aurora.
That's right. That's awesome. I love it. Great news. 46 and sunny in Denver. Expecting a high of 81 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story, as Jeff and Billy just mentioned, former President Trump returns to Colorado. He'll hold a campaign rally Friday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at Aurora. In Aurora at Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. He claims the city has turned into a war zone because of violent Venezuelan prison gang members terrorizing apartment complexes. Local officials continue to say his message is misinformation. The neighbors would disagree, I'm sure. The mayor confirms police are handling an isolated case of 6 men trying to break down a door. They simplified it there. Sounds like a lot of eyes from that neighborhood will be listening to Trump on Friday. Counties in Florida's Gulf Coast are being ordered to evacuate as Hurricane Milton makes its way toward landfall. The Category 4 storm is expected to hit late Wednesday or early Thursday. The storm is currently packing maximum winds of 155 miles per hour. Stephen Miller, former White House aide to Trump, reminds us of how this regime failed during and after Helene.
The reason why those Americans in North Carolina, those mothers, those fathers, those precious little children were left to die, were left on rooftops begging their government for help that never came, is because Kamala Harris turned FEMA into an illegal alien resettlement agency. Its manpower, its dollars, its resources, its mental energy was spent over the last 4 years learning how to do one thing: how to get illegal aliens from outside the country into your town. And so when disaster struck, they were not ready, they were not prepared, they were not capable, and they did not care. And our fellow citizens, including babies, children, young kids, were left to suffer and drown. They did not scramble the helicopters. They did not scramble the military. They did not send needed assistance. But if those children had been living in a foreign country, they've been living in Haiti, or they've been living in Venezuela, why then Kamala Harris would have sent in help immediately. A betrayal like we've never seen before.
But FEMA says that they're ready to respond to Milton. The White House says the Federal Emergency Management Agency has the funding needed, but FEMA money for Americans has been ripped off by this regime for illegals. Here's Karine Jean-Pierre continues to get caught in the lie.
It's just categorically false. No, Biden did not take FEMA relief money to use on migrants. So FEMA regional
this is 2 years ago. You just heard her, and now this is 2 years ago.
Have been meeting with city officials on site to coordinate available federal support from FEMA and other federal agencies. Funding is also available through FEMA's emergency food and shelter program
for
to eligible local governments and non-for-profit organizations upon request to support humanitarian relief for migrants.
Humanitarian relief for migrants. She just stands up there and lies and lies and lies. Kamala Khan is blaming former President Trump for the increase in border crossings. Yeah, it's his fault. She told Bill Whitaker on 60 Minutes that Trump got Republicans in Congress to kill a bipartisan border security bill. We've heard this before. That's because 60 billion of it was going to Ukraine, not the southern border. Here's the con on 60 Minutes.
There was an historic flood of undocumented immigrants coming across the border the first 3 years of your administration. As a matter of fact, arrivals quadrupled from the last year of President Trump. Was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies as much as you did?
It's a long-standing problem. And solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally, we have been offering solutions.
What I was asking was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem.
Oh, my goodness. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. And Kamala Khan is going to be on the Howard Stern show. I guess.
Is she?
Yeah, I guess it's today. So I'm going to try this. I don't know
but
if he does it in the morning.
Lib.
What a joke, man. That guy, what a fraud. I mean, this is the only dude that can do blackface and drop the N-bomb like 10 times and never get canceled. And now he's Mr. Lefty.
Oh, yeah.
So she's going to be on with him. What a joke, man. So I'll try to.
He'll get the soft, or she'll get the softballs. I mean, last night,
doubt.
We're going to get into this right after the news and weather here, but I think that was a really bad interview for Kamala Harris.
I thought it was horrible. And it was edited also. Right. I mean, they left some of the long pauses and that type of thing in there. But there were probably 10 or 15 answers that were clearly just, cut and edited, and, they made her look better than she probably sounded.
I thought Bill Whitaker did a pretty good job of taking the screws to her, because there were times where she would do this. She would just like wander off into La La Land in her answer, and he'd have to be like, I asked you about this, and bring her back in. And
and I will say she's very good at that, because I'll listen to her and I'll go, what the hell was the question? What? She did it. I mean, every time, man. I'm like, whoa, man. I mean, she puts you to sleep, numbs you. Yep. I mean, it's effective.
But here's the one thing. I was sitting there. I watched the whole video twice. I was sitting in the library, had my headphones in, diving into it. And I was sitting there going, she is so dumb that if she becomes the president, there's no way. And if Republicans can just hold the House or the Senate, nothing's going to happen for 4 years. She will not be able to get anything done. And we'll get into this in a second. But she has no ability to get anything passed. She has no legacy in the Senate of building consensus like she talks about in that interview. Right. She has no history of that.
Received no votes. She's just planted.
So you think that she's gonna at least Joe Biden had 30 years of legislative experience.
Right.
She has none. So what you think she's just gonna match? You think Tim Walz is gonna help her with that? No. She's gonna get elected, and if God forbid that happens, Republicans can at least hold a House or a Senate. Then we're just going to kind of hang out for 4 years.
It's frightening, because she would be like 6th or 7th in charge. Maybe.
Yeah, right. That's a great point.
Right in back of the big machine running the whole thing.
Right.
42 in Arvada, 43 in Englewood, 46 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue.
I do give a damn.
You liberals, it's all about
I'm not a liberal.
That's all.
I'm not a liberal.
Yeah, you are.
I am not. No,
I may be. You. Yeah, I think you probably are, Billy. I'm pretty damn sure.
Let's go. It's Tuesday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. Your 710 5-day forecast. Once again, mostly sunny skies for today. Highs will be in the lower 80s with partly cloudy skies tonight, and lows going to be in the lower and mid-50s. Expect lower 80s for Wednesday and Thursday. A few spots might even hit the mid-80s. Continued mostly sunny and dry. Lows low and mid-50s. Low 80s on Friday. Weather brought to you by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or income for life. Get your review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So last night, big broadcast of an interview on 60 Minutes by Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Not a good interview. In fact, I don't think anybody should go on 60 Minutes. I think maybe if you're Caitlin Clark and they do kind of sports pieces. But politics, I don't blame Donald Trump. And they they kind of made an issue out of this twice, even asking Kamala Harris, why don't you think Donald Trump did 60 Minutes? I was reminded of Robert George, who I think is probably the smartest conservative in America, if not the world, out of Princeton University, runs the Madison Institute there. Brilliant. And no fan of Donald Trump, by the way, but he had written this 3 years ago about 60 Minutes. Earlier this week, I received an email message from a producer at 60 Minutes requesting an interview for a segment they're working on concerning scientific developments in the area of embryo research. Here's my reply. Thank you for your note. I've been a professor for 36 years. I've been involved in a serious way in public affairs for nearly 30. I've been interviewed in various media, hundreds, perhaps thousands of times. Most of those experiences have been fine. Even hostile interviewers have permitted me to present the case for my perspective on an issue or set of issues, and in nearly every case, quoted or reported what I said accurately. There was, however, one major exception. It was the worst experience I've ever had with media. I regret to say that it was with 60 Minutes. And there is not the slightest doubt in my mind that it was driven by ideological bias. As it happens, the subject was the very one about which you have written to me, the biological and moral status of the developing human embryo. I had served or was serving, I can't remember the timing, on the President's Council on Bioethics, and we had done a major report on embryonic stem cell research. Things actually began well. I gave an hour-long off-camera interview to someone associated with 60 Minutes, who asked thoughtful, intelligent questions, listened carefully to my answers, and asked excellent follow-up questions that made clear that he understood my points. All this lulled me into thinking that this was a serious inquiry. Then came the on-camera interview with Leslie Stahl. It was a series of gotcha questions, which revealed not the slightest acquaintance with what I had said in the pre-interview. Trying to answer such questions for a format such as 60 Minutes is simply hopeless. Exposing the mistaken or tendentious assumptions built into the question exhausts one's time and energy. Sorry. I was stunned by the experience and frankly angered. The intensity of my anger increased when I saw the broadcast. The editing seemed designed to mislead viewers as to what my views and arguments were. I was appalled. I said to myself then and there that I will never again have anything to do with 60 Minutes. The recent business with Ron DeSantis, remember this was about 3 years ago, brought memories of my unhappy, to say the least, experience with the show flooding back. The subject you have asked about is an important one. And as you noted, there has been significant recent developments pertaining to it. I'd love to participate in an effort accurately to inform the public on these developments. I lack confidence, however, in 60 Minutes. For that reason, I must decline. Yours sincerely, Robert George. So there's a general thought through the conservative movement that you just don't sit down with 60 Minutes. So I don't blame Donald Trump and J.D. Vance for not going on 60 Minutes, but for Kamala Harris, wasn't a good interview either. I'm not sure it was a good decision for her to go on. They start off by talking about the Middle East.
The events of the past few weeks have pushed us to the brink, if not into, an all-out regional war in the Middle East. What can the U.S. do at this point to stop this from spinning out of control?
Well, let's start with October 7. 1,200 people were massacred. 250 hostages were taken, including Americans. Women were brutally raped. And as I said then, I maintain Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. This war has to end.
To Blake's point, you forget what the question was. The question was, how do you keep this from spinning out of control? And her answer is, this has got to end. That was the answer to the question, how do you keep this spinning out of control? The answer is, this has got to end. It reminds me of the Iran don't response.
Yeah.
Where you're like, well, that's not a response. How, and she would not go on to clarify. They kind of spin into Benjamin Netanyahu discussions and stuff like that. But There's no answer there on how you keep this from spinning out of control. I mean, the interview on Hugh Hewitt prior to this was, which juicy targets is Israel going to attack in Iran? Like, this thing is building and building and building. And I do think Israel has the right to respond against the ballistic missile attack, but there's no answer there.
Yeah. And she does dance around it a lot, but unfortunately, this is a binary choice, and it's not as if the person she's running against answers a direct question either. He doesn't answer any questions and goes very far.
Do you think the Abraham Accords demonstrate he's able to bring a measure of peace to the Middle East?
No, I don't. No, because the Abraham Accords is an agreement between Bahrain and United Arab Emirates. That was
Israel.
I know, but that was an open secret before Trump ever got into power. They put it on paper, and I will give him a ton of credit for that. But if we talk about the movers and shakers inside of the Middle East, where on the list is the UAE and Bahrain? Where in the list of power brokers? Where in the list of movers and shakers in the Middle East?
Were they on their pathway to securing Saudi Arabia into that? Possibly. And that was part of why October 7th it took place?
Yeah, but again, if the reason was October 7th and Saudi Arabia was coming in, that would be under the Biden administration. We don't want to give him credit for that, do we? We wouldn't possibly give him credit for that. And so what I'm saying is that this was an open secret. The Abraham Accords was a fantastic move to get those two minor players in the Middle East to come forward, say it publicly, and to put it on paper. That is a huge move. But this narrative that it was somehow bringing peace to the Middle East is completely and totally false. It didn't announce anything or do anything that didn't already exist, that everybody in the region didn't already know about. And again, I'm going to go back to the list of power brokers. Where on that list is Bahrain and UAE? They're at the bottom.
So
they're not at the top.
Do you trust Kamala Harris to manage the Middle East better than Donald Trump?
Yes, I do. Only because
really?
Yeah, and here's the only reason why is I believe Donald Trump pushes us to get into an increasing conflict, because he talked about the idea just recently in an interview. We talked about the fact that he would advocate to bomb Iran to smithereens, is what he would tell them, that he would bomb them to smithereens. That doesn't seem to be something that is going to bring any sort of peace or anything else inside of the Middle East if he does that. And we can go back to.
I disagree. I think because I think what he does is, and if you've ever read his book, The Art of the Deal, he gets people to places because he's willing to push to the extreme, like Little Rocket Man, for instance.
Yeah,
I've got a bigger button than you are, or I'm going to bomb the crap out of Iran, and they kind of seem to take a step back.
Well, remember
because he threatens that. It's a lot more intimidating from Donald Trump to hear, I'm going to bomb the crap out of you, than Kamala Harris going, don't.
Well, here's the thing is that what happened in North Korea wasn't that they stopped their nuclear program. They didn't stop their missile program. They didn't stop that at all. But what they did get is they did get elevated. Kim Jong-un got what he needed. He got elevated into a major player in the world. He was able to show pictures of himself next to Donald Trump. That was why Obama and previous presidents would never meet with him, because of those visuals and giving him that credit. Donald Trump did. And what he didn't do is stop any of the nuclear program and the missile program. So he didn't get anything that we needed. But he gave North Korea what they needed. He got
North Korea. What scholars have looked at with regards to Trump and North Korea is that it moved from an adversarial time period to more of a negotiated time period. And during those last few years with Donald Trump, they were actually de-escalating with South Korea. So South Korea was not running as many military exercises up there, and you didn't see as many missile launches coming from North Korea. So there was a point in which they were doing having North Korea and South Korea were having more direct talks.
Yeah, a little bit, but it didn't necessarily stop or change the relationship. I mean, it's the idea that he created this great watershed moment that changed how North Korea was dealing with the rest of the world isn't correct at all. What he did do is give Kim Jong-un a large platform to say that he's a player on the world stage. That's what he did.
There were fewer missile launches during that period. There was a de-escalation that took place.
But they didn't stop their program or anything else. They kept working on it. And so in order to, I know, but what he did is
blaming Trump because he didn't get everything.
No,
but you think that Kamala Harris is going to get anything?
Listen, I'm not blaming him. What I'm saying is all the stuff that we give him credit for is fairly minor in the scope of things. And is Harris going to get necessarily anything more? Not necessarily. Is she going to be horribly less? No, I don't think so.
What has she gotten at all?
But it's again, what have we been? I don't understand why. What is the issue that North Korea is doing right now? What is the issue that they are basically creating, other than the fact that they're helping arm Russia? Outside of that, what is the issue that North Korea is creating at this point? I just don't see that in the global sphere of things. We started over on Israel and stuff, and now we're stuck in North Korea. I'm just saying that giving Donald Trump, I know, but I'm saying giving Donald Trump the credit with North Korea that he did this great thing with them isn't necessarily true. It's he went there and he talked to him, but he gave North Korea more than we got in return.
Yeah, but
I
see you going. I see you going. Well, he didn't achieve all this stuff that maybe we tend to believe he did. So he didn't achieve great world peace.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
listen to that question and that answer. And what has Kamala done in 3.5 years as vice president of the United States? And what confidence do you have she's going to do anything with that answer? She can't even answer a single question.
Your premise was based on world peace, and that's why I pushed back on it. And again, vice president isn't necessarily is it leading negotiations or even leading foreign policy? That's not something the vice president does. The vice president doesn't have any ability to affect that foreign policy coming out of the White House. They can be there as someone.
Asked to be as the president of the United States, what she's going to do to address this tinderbox, this exploding tinderbox in the Middle East. Like, we are at any moment now, Fox is going to have a headline up there that Iran has been attacked by Israel, because they're going to go deep now. And Hugh Hewitt's show an hour from now was talking about nuclear sites and oil sites and everything they could hit. We're on the brink of that. Kamala Harris is asked what she's going to do to address it, and she has no answer.
She played the diplomatic role. That's what she did. It's the same thing in the follow-up in the Netanyahu question. She plays the diplomatic role. It's basically what she's doing. And there's a part in the question that we don't have.
I don't see a diplomatic role at all. I just see it as somebody who has no clue what to do.
But you think
that Kamala Harris has a clue?
Yes.
On what to do in the Middle East.
Yes, we can decide.
What should we do? What is her plan?
Her plan is going to continue just as it will be with any of presidents that get in, whether it's Harris or Trump. It's going to still trying to influence Israel on how they're going to prosecute the war. Because I would be shocked if Donald Trump is really serious about the fact that we are going to openly attack Iran. He's going to advocate to openly attack another sovereign power. We can support Israel. But I really, that would shock me that his solution to this would be to get Iran and the U.S. involved in an open armed conflict.
I mean, he did take out one of Iran's top guys. Remember?
Yeah, I did. But do you remember what they responded and what he did? You remember the response?
I don't remember the response.
I know no one does. The response was they launched I think it was 11 ballistic missiles at a U.S. base in Iraq. There were defenses that stopped the missiles from hitting there, but I believe you had more than it was at least 60, if not 80, individuals that received traumatic brain injuries there, and I think it's 60 to 80 of them received Purple Hearts based on the service. Now remember that traumatic brain injuries so much so they were evacuated out of Iraq to care in Germany. They couldn't serve anymore. But Donald Trump has talked to those individuals and say they just suffered from headaches and it was a loud noise, and basically implied they weren't tough enough. But they suffered traumatic brain injuries. And guess what we did after? And this was the largest ballistic attack ever on a U.S. military base. And guess what we did in response?
Nothing. Right?
Nothing.
After that?
Nothing at all.
Because we'd already killed one of their top guys.
But they launched the largest ballistic missile attack on a U.S. base, and Donald Trump's response was nothing.
But so it seems to me on one hand, you're like, he's going to spin us into war, and then you just prove that what it is, his tough talk is mostly a paper tiger. And if we really believe that he's going to go and he's going to talk tough to Iran, and he's really the strong arm that's going to control this, then he's advocating for an open conflict and getting us involved in an open conflict in the Middle East, which is questionable. Or do we believe that he's just talking tough and he's not to be believed? And what does Iran think of him? Because the last time Iran responded to Soleimani, he didn't do anything.
You
Yeah,
can do anything to
it's
them.
interesting to me that we're so afraid of Donald Trump spinning us into war in the Middle East when we're about to go to war in the Middle East. And
No, we're
Kamala
not.
Harris is in charge of it.
No, we are not. There may be war in the Middle East, but we
I
are
don't
not.
know. I think we're going to get drug into this with Israel's response to Iran. So I think we're right on the precipice of that. Look, are you a homeowner considering selling your home? Let Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team use their database of over 13,700 ready buyers to get your home sold for top dollar. Many real estate agents make promises, but very few have the proof to back it up. The Empower Home team has review after review from families they have served that back up what they say. They net their sellers 6.1% more money on average, getting their sellers $30,500 more in their pocket. No matter who wins the elections, no matter what kind of market we're in, the Empower Home team brings both the experience and track record to help you navigate your home sale and get you top dollar. If your home doesn't sell, Gay Ribble will buy it. That's her guarantee to you. Reach out to my friends and realtors at Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams by calling 833-301-SOLD. That's 833-301-SOLD, or go to gayasthebuyers.com. That's GAYE hasthebuyers.com. Question for the listeners. Who do you think is better prepared to address the challenges in the Middle East? Donald Trump? Kamala Harris? Love to hear your thoughts. 303-696-1971 or text the Dan Campos Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Weil in Dallas, and here are your top stories. A mayor in upstate New York is suing the company Sticker Mule after the CEO, Anthony Constantino, put up a 100-foot wide Vote for Trump sign on his business in the city of Amsterdam. The city is claiming the sign is a code violation because they claim it, quote, presents a dangerous distraction and impacts traffic flow. However, Constantino pointing out that it's the same size as a previous sign on the same building and says that the mayor is anti-Trump. The CEO has vowed to fight the temporary injunction that requires that the sign is covered up and is encouraging other people and businesses to come out and publicly endorse Donald Trump.
But you're a celebrity, an athlete, an academic, that, you too can speak up and do what I did and admit you support Trump as long as you do it respectfully. As long as you do it respectfully and in a sensible way, you can do it too and help fix this problem.
The Georgia Supreme Court halted a ruling striking down the state's 6-week abortion ban while it considers the state's appeal. The High Court's order came a week after a judge found that Georgia unconstitutionally banned abortions after about 6 weeks of pregnancy. On Monday, 6 of 9 justices fully agreed to halt the judge's ruling while Georgia appeals. And although the 6-week abortion ban was reinstated, the order precluded one provision from being restored, writing, "Health records shall be available to the district attorney of the judicial circuit in which the act of abortion occurs or the woman upon whom an abortion is performed resides." In Dallas, Christina Weil, Salem News Channel.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's featured item.
A Yeti Roadie 60-quart wheeled cooler valued at $450.
Get it now at RockyMountainBargains.com for 50% off. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always pay half price. Restrictions apply. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Kamala Harris asked about the exploding Middle East yesterday on 60 Minutes. Here's her answer.
The events of the past few weeks have pushed us to the brink, if not into, an all-out regional war in the Middle East. What can the U.S. do at this point to stop this from spinning out of control?
Well, let's start with October 7. 1,200 people were massacred. 250 hostages were taken, including Americans. Women were brutally raped. And as I said then, I maintain Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters. Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. This war has to end.
Whoa, great leadership there. This war has to end. Well, my question to our listeners is, who's better to address this growing problem in the Middle East, this tinderbox? It's exploding. And Israel is at any moment going to strike into Iran. And is that going to pull the United States in? And do you trust that person right there to lead our nation and bring peace to the Middle East? Let's go to the phone lines. Tony, good morning, Tony.
Hey, good morning. I think you can estimate that her action will be similar to that of the Biden administration, and in that we will give Israel unconditional support in terms of defending them. But at the same time, we're going to continue pounding them that you have to have a political solution ultimately. You have to have, you're going to have to do something with the Palestinians. You can't kill them all. So they're going to have a political solution. And that is the same position that every single president going back to Eisenhower has had until Trump. What Trump did in Jerusalem, if anything stimulated this whole thing, it was the Abraham Accords, because there was one player that was not a participant, the Palestinians. You could predict that this was going to happen.
So, Tony, you blame Trump for October 7th?
I'm not blaming him directly for October 7th. I'm saying he did his actions as president, dealing with the most right-wing government that Israel has ever had. Between the two, the actions they took It's not a surprise.
What did they do? What did they do that forced Hamas's hand?
I'm not defending in any way, shape, or form. Everybody, including the Biden administration, looks at Hamas and says that is a terrorist organization. They have to go. At the end of the day, they have to go. They have to be out of the negotiation. And that's the position that Biden has taken. But we more than alienated we allowed Hamas to create this narrative that we have no friends now at the table anymore. The U.S. has bailed on us.
Children and women and all that stuff.
No defense of that. No defense whatsoever of that. What it is saying is, up until Trump's administration, the Palestinians could at least say, well, the U.S. is still arguing for a two-state solution. They're still arguing. We're not getting anywhere, but they're still arguing for it. Once Trump became president and they took the actions that they did, the Abraham Accords included, precluding any addressing of the Palestinian question, that narrative set the table for Hamas to make that case.
And then 2.5 years later, after Joe Biden had been elected, they attacked. Tony, I appreciate the call, but I just fundamentally disagree. The Middle East was much better off under a Trump leadership. It was more stable. Some of the bad guys were dying, and we had much stronger support for Israel. But give me a call. Would love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're going to take a little much-needed Do You Choose the News?
Yes, it's that time of the morning where we make questionable decisions. It's something we call You Choose the News, America's favorite fake radio news game show. I have scoured the interwebs for moments this morning to find really dumb stories about humans, given the even more ridiculous headlines for this fake radio news game. Why? Nobody in charge is paying attention. So when we are left unsupervised, this is what happens. We'd also appreciate it if you keep it our little secret. Thank you so much. Okay, joining us from the newsroom, of course, is Blake Olson. Jeff, Blake, here are your choices this morning, gentlemen. Headline number 1, Matt Damon was right. Headline number 2, the first rule, nothing is too small to steal. Headline number 3, the sequel no one wanted, but we deserve. And headline number 4, recycling history.
I'm a big Matt Damon fan, man.
Matt Damon
Jason
was
Bourne.
right. Not Jason Bourne, The Martian. Matt Damon was right about the use of potatoes on Mars. In fact, the science hippies now say that space concrete they're creating using potatoes is almost twice as strong as the conventional concrete we have here on Earth. Here's the problem. If we're going to go and start colonizing...
using potatoes to make concrete?
Yeah, now here's the reason. Think about us having to go, as Elon wants to go colonize Mars. How do you possibly build any structures? You don't take all the stuff with you. You have to manufacture it when you're there on planet. Now, the first couple of ideas that the space hippies had, either using our pee-pee or our blood as a thickener. Now they've landed on potatoes. The mix of starch, salt could simulate some Mars moon dirt, and they've been able to take the dirt along with the starch and the salt from the potatoes and squeeze them together and make actual bricks. So if we were going somewhere, that's what we'd do is we'd bring a potato, we'd grow a lot of potatoes, and eventually be able to grow
the line out of that movie is we're going to science the blank out of it.
Exactly. And that's what they did. They scienced the blank out of this. Alrighty, Blake Olson, your choice. First rule is nothing's too small to steal. The sequel no one wanted, but we all deserve, or recycling history.
Let's go with recycling history.
Yes, recycling history. Hey, there's a lot of unused land around. Maybe we should just recycle it for the dead people. Not happening here, but in England and Wales, they're looking at recycling grave plots where they're going to drop 2, 3, maybe more people into the hole because they've run out of land. So they're looking at the idea of how do they go about doing this? What are the rules? How long does a person have to be, in the ground? However, I think this is a huge advantage because just think about how much easier it's going to be to talk to the kids and go, come on, kids, let's go visit Grandpa Jim along with Aunt Emma. So much easier when it's one stop.
Exactly. I just don't know this, but when you buy a plot, is it a monthly payment? And then if it runs out, you get it for good.
Yeah, you get it for good.
You get it for good.
Yeah, you get it for good. So, but the issue is, do they really have to be 6 feet under? Could we go 3?
Yeah, really.
Resurrection is going to look real interesting.
I know.
There could be like 3 stacked up.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So how does the one on the bottom breathe? No.
The other part is I can't figure out people haven't done yet is why aren't we standing them straight up and down? I mean, you could go, just as far as stacking them. If we go straight up and down, they're closer together. I don't know.
What if all 3 of us were buried together? I'll be on the bottom. Stack us up.
Alrighty. And final choice this morning, Mr. Hunt. Number 1 rule is nothing's too small to steal, or the sequel no one wanted, but we all deserve.
Sequel.
Yes, the sequel no one wanted, but yet we all deserve. We are traveling to the lovely country of Vietnam right now because they have got some animals that are dying. So far, 47 tigers, 3 lions, and even a panther have died in Vietnamese zoos all across the country because of the bird flu. Yes, the bird flu has jumped from the avians into felines, and it is killing the tigers inside of the zoos. Now, good thing is, so far, none of the humans that have had any contact with the animals have gotten sick or shown any signs. However, doesn't mean it can't jump from the felines into the human population. And just as a reminder, the H5N1 bird flu virus is a respiratory virus. And you know how well we dealt with that last time around.
Just in time for an election, baby.
So bird flu is jumping species. It's zoonotic development. And so, that's
Stop
not good.
Eating bat soup, people.
It's not good. So, the bird flu's now, they're also in pigs. So this is not going to get good. This thing's going to jump to humans sometime soon. That's your happiness for the morning. Back to you, sir.
For the elections, like I said. All right. We're going to continue our analysis of Kamala Harris's disastrous 60 Minutes interview Not going to want to miss it. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
It is 7 a.m. on this Tuesday, October 8th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You're waking up in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother morning of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. The big news of the day, Donald Trump, the man, DJT, coming to Colorado on Friday, October 11th. He'll be at the Gaylord in Aurora. The rally will begin at 1 p.m. Ticket doors will open around 10 a.m. Tickets are available. I have the link on my X account. If you go to x.com/Jeff Hunt, just scroll down there. You'll see where you can register. I would register as soon as possible. I don't know exactly where they're going to do it on the Gaylord. I've hosted an event at the Gaylord, but it is not endless. It is not mile high. And so they cannot put 75,000 people there. So you may want to get a ticket before they sell out. Again, that's link is at my X account at x.com/Jeff Hunt. We're going to cover Kamala Harris's disastrous 60-minute interview yesterday. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. And Billy, 45 and clear in Denver, expecting a high of 81 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
Head hate on me. Can't stop DJT, and I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me.
As Jeff just mentioned, former President Trump returns to Colorado, this time to the Front Range. He'll hold that campaign rally on Friday afternoon at 1 in Aurora at Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. He claims the city has turned into a war zone because of violent Venezuelan prison gang members terrorizing apartment complexes, but the mayor confirms police are handling an isolated case of 6 men trying to break down a door. All right, we'll see what happens as that one develops on Friday. Florida's Gulf Coast is about to be hit by Hurricane Milton, and people are being ordered to evacuate as it makes its way toward landfall. The Category 4 storm is expected to hit tomorrow night or early Thursday. They're expecting winds of 155 miles per hour. President Biden has approved Florida Governor Ron DeSantis's request for an emergency declaration. The White House says the Federal Emergency Management Agency has the funding needed, but FEMA money for Americans has been ripped off by this regime for illegals, even though Karine Jean-Pierre stands up there in her oversized zoot suit and actually lies.
So disaster relief, this is a falsehood. Disaster relief funds used on immigrants illegally in the U.S. The fact is, no money is being diverted from response needs. That's the fact.
But here's what Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas said before the storms after spending $1.4 billion on illegals since 2022.
We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
Wow. All right. Kamala Khan is blaming Trump for the increase in border crossings, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. She's the freaking border czar. She told Bill Whitaker on 60 Minutes that Trump got Republicans in Congress to kill a bipartisan border security bill. You remember that bill? Because there was like 60 billion going to Ukraine and not the southern border. And maybe popular radio host and podcaster Charlemagne is starting to get it. He calls himself the God, whatever, but maybe there is hope.
Well, I think they mess up in regards to messaging. Like, you know, you'll listen to a lot of reporters and they'll be talking to Trump or JD Vance and they'll be talking to them about things that are happening right here in America. Because it is an election season right here in America. So it's so many things that we care about here, like, right? So it's always America first. But then, you know, you go to Tim Walz and they're asking him about geopolitical politics. And I think a lot of times that makes them sound, you know, very out of touch. That makes them sound very out of touch to what's actually going on right here in America.
We're talking about things that's happening overseas and not talking about what's here. But that's what they're being asked.
Exactly. Not saying that stuff is important, but that stuff gets highlighted over, you know, what's happening right here in this country. And when you hear, you know, the Vances and the Trumps talking about what's happening here at home and saying things like America first and make America great again, that messaging sometimes resonates a lot lot
Yes.
Absolutely. Not sometimes. It does resonate a lot more.
Yes, it does, Charlemagne.
Exactly. Because you saw what happened in North Carolina. As soon as you, I think this weekend they announced how much money they were sending to, I think it was Lebanon. People got outraged. They was like, yo, what about us right here in North Carolina? So like that America First messaging goes much farther, especially during election season.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much, Charlemagne. All right, Kamala Khan, she's going to be on The View. She's going to be on with Howard Stern and Stephen Colbert today. Man, she is making the rounds. There is going to be some choice stuff today.
Like, I don't know of a single interview that she does where she comes out looking better.
I don't either. I don't think I've seen it, heard it. No, I don't. No,
she's a disaster, and that's why they tried to hide her. Now they're trying to put her out there more, but 60 Minutes didn't turn out well.
Did you see the video of her shoveling the dirt yesterday? No. They were okay. So they planted a tree. You know,
she's a middle class girl. She's been shoveling before.
Exactly. So if you see her, I mean, it is a disgrace. I'm like, man, I don't think she has ever picked up a shovel in her life. I mean, she's holding it at the end, and she's holding it, you know, she's standing straight forward. You know, she's not, her feet aren't shoulder width. You know, you kind of have to be athletic, you know, a little athletic stance, kind of at an angle, spread your arms out a little bit. Her arms are like 3 inches from each other. It looks like she's never used a shovel in her life. You need to check it out. She's with her husband or whatever.
Dude, did you see that story just die of him smacking his ex-girlfriend?
Where did that go?
Because you know exactly where it went.
That was funny.
It threatened the regime.
Yeah, exactly.
But I love. I think it was who was Circleback Saki did an interview where she goes, she's like, you were just like the perfect man. And I'm sitting there going, here's a dude that slept with his first wife's teacher,
babysitter, nanny, or something. Yeah.
And so had that affair going on. And then I think it was the Daily Mail or something broke that he smacked his girlfriend. But you know, liberal women will love those dudes so long as they vote for abortion.
Oh yeah, they're okay then. There's no doubt. So was there video of that? I forgot.
No, not video. It was it was remarks made by an ex-girlfriend and people that she had called right after the event had happened, that type of thing. But hey, hashtag believe all women, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, what I was kind of getting to, and I'll let you go, but she's holding the shovel. I mean, it's just ridiculous. But then she talks about, you know, owning a gun. And I'm like, man, there's no way that she has a gun. She says she has a Glock, and she shoots it at the shooting
that video
range.
is hilarious.
and if you look at her holding the shovel, you're like, there's no way she'd be on her back. I can't believe this. There's no way.
I mean, her husband, Doug's got a good grip. But,
no, that's true. Maybe Montel
her hands
was standing behind her holding the gun or something.
She's got the shovel, and her hands are like right on top of each other.
Yes.
She's just kind of flinging dirt.
She's not even flinging it, man. It's hilarious. All right, it's 42 in Lakewood, 43 in Aurora, 45 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue Tuesday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. Your 710 5-day forecast. Once again, mostly sunny skies for today. Highs will be in the lower 80s with partly cloudy skies tonight, and lows going to be in the lower and mid-50s. Expect lower 80s for Wednesday and Thursday. A few spots might even hit the mid-80s. Continued mostly sunny and dry. Lows low and mid-50s. Low 80s on Friday. Weather brought to you by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or income for life. Get your review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, Doug's got a great point. He texts us in on the, gosh, that fell apart. He texted us on the Dan Kaplis text line. 720-819-5115. He goes, Jeff, I don't have X. Where can I register for the Donald Trump rally? If you text us, I will send you the link. 720-819-5115. 720-819-5115. Text us. I'll send you the registration link to the Trump rally happening this Friday. All right, so Kamala Harris does 60 Minutes. I don't think anybody should do 60 Minutes anymore. I think it's disastrous. Biased news organization, I don't even think is a progressive, you should do 60 Minutes. We talked a little bit about the Middle East in the first part of the hour. Let's get to her economic plan. Here's Kamala last night.
Look at how small this little thing is. Lives and charges inside of one convenient.
I think it's the ad prior to that.
Let me figure that one out here. Go to something else first. I don't know why that's still there.
That's a great
weird.
opening, by the way.
Yeah, that's great. Let me look at that.
Look how
What the heck?
small. All right, Bill. All right, let's go to how much Kamala changes her positions. Let's see if this guy works.
They say that the reason so many voters don't know you is that you have changed your position on so many things. You were against fracking, now you're for it. You supported looser immigration policies, now you're tightening them up. You were for Medicare for all, now you're not. So many that people don't truly know what you believe or what you stand for. And I know you've heard that.
In the last 4 years, I have been Vice President of the United States, and I have been traveling our country, and I have been listening to folks and seeking what is possible in terms of common ground. I believe in building consensus. We are a diverse people, geographically, regionally, in terms of where we are in our backgrounds. And what the American people do want is that we have leaders who can build consensus, where we can figure out compromise and understand it's not a bad thing, as long as you don't compromise your values, to find common sense solutions. And that has been my approach.
That has not been her approach. Building consensus. How many times did Kamala Harris have to be the tie-breaking vote in the Senate? I think she was like a record amount of times, right? Because Republicans and Democrats have done such a good job building consensus in the Senate that she gets to be the tie-breaking vote to give it to the Democrats. That, like, bro, when a politician just embraces something that's just completely outside of their career, right? You have the most progressive senator. She's about as liberal as you get. The last thing I've ever thought of Kamala Harris being is a consensus builder. When I think of consensus builder, I think of John McCain and who's the senator out of West Virginia? The guy that's the Democrat that kind of voted with Republicans some of the time. But I think of Jeff Flake.
You think he mentioned?
Yeah, as more of a consensus builder.
I'm not sure about him being a consensus builder, but yeah.
Kamala Harris.
What about Biden? Would you throw him in there? Because
as a senator, I could maybe get there.
Yeah, because that was the talk during Senate. Yeah,
okay. But not as president, and definitely not Kamala Harris. When has Kamala Harris ever built consensus on anything?
I don't know. I'd have to look, but
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, but is Trump either? That's the thing.
No, he's not a consensus builder. He's a bull in a china shop.
Yeah,
he and Elon Musk are going to fire 80% of the federal government.
Yeah, that'll work out well.
I can't, but like the idea that she's embraced this as a consensus builder. Come on, that's a bunch of baloney.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's necessarily a bunch of baloney, but I think that to the average, more uninformed voter, she's more of a consensus builder, at least sounds like it, than Donald Trump is. And I think that's what she's doing. She is trying to create that contrast. Again, valid or not, but what she's trying to do is this part of this interview is that she is still introducing herself to that swath of persuadable voters that could go other direction.
She's not a consensus builder. She's a liar.
I know, but have you seen the other guy too? That's the issue. And that's the issue.
But she could say, I hope to build more consensus than Donald Trump does, but she's not a consensus.
But the charges from either camp, Democrat or Republican, in this election about the other person is lying isn't going to hold any water because of the two candidates that are running. Because Kamala Harris had to change her positions from where she was in 2019, and Donald Trump changes his positions based on what crowd he's in front of or anything else that runs through his mind. That's the problem. And that is just a fundamental. That is why you can be correct that she is not a consensus builder, but standing there and saying, liar, liar, pants on fire isn't going to resonate with the voters you need to persuade to vote to Donald Trump. It's just, that's the thing. It's the same reason the stolen valor thing with Tim Walz didn't work. All sorts of things. That's why. It's the same reason you were talking with.
No, 60 Minutes hammered him pretty hard on that yesterday.
Not necessarily. And you were talking with Blake earlier about the Kamala's husband. That's not okay. But given that the person running under the Republican banner has been found liable for sexual assault, the idea that he slapped his girl doesn't have the same weight. That's the problem inside of this narrative. The usual attacks don't work.
Weight
they just don't
is
work.
not what I'm talking about, or what I'm all that interested in is how strong does the argument against the person fall?
Yeah.
But with Doug, you got an entire movement embraced by the left called Believe All Women. And now who's going to be the first gentleman this country has ever had knocked up the nanny and allegedly slapped the girlfriend.
Yeah.
Congratulations, America.
Yeah. But again, the guy on the other side, 3 wives and cheating on all of them. That's the problem. That's the problem with this. The usual attacks don't work. And Kamala is portraying herself, real or not, as the consensus builder because Donald Trump is not. And all she's trying to do is offer contrast.
I'm not
real or not.
I'm not saying
real or not. That's what she's doing.
I'm not here saying I really wish I had a consensus builder. I'm very happy that Donald Trump is not a consensus builder because I believe our federal government is so dang corrupt. I want that bull in a china shop, and I want he and Elon Musk to hammer out 80% of it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be great. What frustrates me is that you have the most progressive senator that has no inch of consensus building in her career. She came from the most liberal city, the most liberal state. She became the most liberal senator. And now, 30 days before an election, here she comes down the road saying, look at me, the great consensus builder.
I'm not certain.
Come on.
I'm not certain that you could say not building consensus. I would assume that inside
she did build consensus.
I would assume inside of
the
the DA office or inside of the AG's office, there would have to be some sort of a consensus building there. Again,
all the Republicans in the DA's office.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying there should be. No. I'm just saying that there needs to be some sort of a consensus building there in general. And I see the critique based on the Senate, but that's the issue. This is about permission from voters in order to vote for whom they want. That's it.
It is.
Really what
look,
it is.
if she came out and said, Donald Trump's a bull in a china shop, and I am gonna seek to build more consensus than him, I could go, that's a fair argument. But to argue that she's a consensus builder already? Oh my gosh.
And I don't think those persuadable voters are going to be worried about the seek to be or am. I don't think that's where they're going to be worried about that language. I just don't think they are.
She's just lying. All right. I want to talk to you about somebody that is a good consensus builder because no matter who you talk to, Republican, Democrat, Independent, they all love this guy. He's like one of Colorado's best. He's one of our great sons of Colorado. I'm talking about Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Look, Dan's the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. But not just being great on values, he's a real winner in the courtroom. Dan's believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted that they're the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases, but he's not just reserved for the rich and wealthy. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, even if you're not in a car accident at this exact moment, put his phone number in your phone so you have it there when you need it. 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS law.com. All right. I want to get thoughts from you all listening. You heard portions of Kamala Harris's interview on 60 Minutes yesterday. Do you believe that she's a consensus builder? You think she'll do a better job than Donald Trump as a consensus builder. And are you looking for a consensus builder? I'm not. Don't care. I like the fact that Donald Trump is a bull in a china shop, and I'd like to see he and Elon Musk take out 80% of the federal government. I think that would be great for the future of this country. So give us a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. By the way, if you want the link to the Donald Trump rally registration page here in Colorado happening on Friday, text us at 720-819-5115, and we'll send it to you right there. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Weil in Dallas, and here are your top stories. The Supreme Court handed the state of Texas a huge victory after deciding not to hear arguments in a case that focused on the Emergency Medical Treatment and Labor Act. That was invoked after Roe v. Wade was overturned. The act requires federally funded hospitals to provide stabilizing care to emergency room patients no matter their ability to pay. The case could have made clear the line between state abortion laws and the federal emergency care law. Texas sued the Biden-Harris administration shortly after the guidance was issued, saying they didn't properly apply the law and didn't follow the correct rulemaking process. A lower court ruled in favor of Texas, and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit agreed. In a blow to Republicans who wanted to stop the practice of curing mail-in ballots, Pennsylvania's High Court ruled that election officials will be able to notify voters of any mistakes on their mail-in ballots and let them make changes. In declining to hear a lawsuit brought by the RNC against the so-called notice and cure procedures, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court said the RNC filed the case too close to the November 5th election. Pennsylvania has 19 electoral votes and is one of 7 key battleground states likely to sway the election. The case is one of more than 120 lawsuits the RNC is involved with across 26 states. Republicans say they are trying to restore faith in elections by making sure people don't vote illegally. That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Weil, Salem News Channel.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's featured item.
A Yeti Roadie 60-quart wheeled cooler valued at $450.
Get it now at RockyMountainBargains.com for 50% off. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always pay half price. Restrictions apply. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details. Rocky.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're getting a lot of text messages here. If you would like the link to register for the Trump rally that's happening this Friday, October 11th, 1 p.m., Gaylord Hotel in Aurora, DJT, the man himself, going to be there. Text the Dan Caplis Law text line. We'll send you the link, 720-819-5115. 720-819-5115. All right, so Kamala Harris did 60 minutes yesterday. Not good. Not good. I think outside of being sports or just kind of feel good, shouldn't do 60 minutes. Even the smartest conservatives I know, like the top ones at Princeton, doing some of the best work on conservative thought, they don't even go on 60 minutes. It's like a rule within the conservative movement. You don't do it. Here she is talking about her economic plan.
My plan is about saying that when you invest in small businesses, you invest in the middle class and you strengthen America's economy. Small businesses are part of the backbone of America's economy.
But pardon me, Madam Vice President, the question was, how are you going to pay for it?
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. I plan on making that fair.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. Their constituents are those firefighters and teachers and nurses.
She has no plan. She has no plan on how to pay this. And man, is that a quote from Bill Whittaker.
She did talk about raising taxes on rich people and then
real world.
And raising corporate taxes. That would be part of it. So
Yeah.
I mean, she didn't ignore she didn't ignore the question totally. She did talk about raising taxes on rich people, which, again, agree or disagree strategically in the interview is a pretty good idea because there are very, very few instances of anyone losing votes by saying, you know, who we need to tax more? Those rich people. That's never been a lost leader.
Greed and envy.
Yeah, but again, politically, strategy wise, fairly smart. Again, she didn't have any sort of specifics, but for her to say we are going to tax the rich people and the corporations, that works and that will resonate with the audience.
Let's go to the phone lines. Aaron, Denver. Good morning, Denver. Good morning, Aaron. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Hey, first of all, Bill and Jeff, you guys won the bet. If the Broncos beat the Raiders, so what did you guys win? Okay.
Oh, we got the win. We got to talk about that. Aaron, let's take a second about that. Gabe came by yesterday. Gabe is he's a prolific texter. He's great. He engages with us. He's a lot of fun on the text line, and he's a huge Raiders fan. I mean, all the time. He basically asked, "Are our guests Raiders fans?" You know, that type of thing. And
the story about why he was a Raiders fan was fantastic because
he
was watching with his mom, and mom's a Broncos fan, and this is a game when he's really young, and he was kind of mad at mom, and the Raiders come in at the last minute and beat the Broncos, and mom was so mad, and he's like, "Oh, that made mom mad. That's my team." So he chose the Raiders because mom liked Broncos and he was mad at the time, which is a great reason when you're a kid to choose a team. So that was fantastic. And he's loved him his entire life. So yeah, we had the bet with him and he swung down here to the studio at about 10:15 yesterday morning. And we hung out for about a half an hour or so. We talked a little bit. We took pictures of him. We put him in the seat of power where Jeff sits, took some pictures with him there, took some other pictures around, and he was wearing a John Elway jersey. He had to wear the John Elway jersey, so we took pictures with him, and he actually brought us gifts. He grows garlic, and he brought us some homemade garlic, of which I used to make a sautéed garlic butter sauce for steaks last night, and it was really good. The garlic that he grew, it's a different one than what you normally get inside of the stores. It had a different color and a different scent to it. It was more woodsy and more smoky. It had more of a deeper flavor profile, which was really cool. So yeah. That's what happened.
So Gabe is he's one of those guys you want to grab a beer with. And afterwards,
Oh, yeah.
we're out walking, and he's like, "Well, how'd you get into radio and stuff?" We're talking about that, and then he goes, "Well, you know, Jeff, I tend to agree with Bill more than I agree with you." And I'm like, "Gabe, I would rather have you run this country than Kamala Harris for sure." So even if he tends to be a little bit more on the on the Bill Thorpe side of things, he's just one of those regular dudes that has great common sense. in my opinion.
And just remember, Aaron, that even if you say that it's dumb that he would agree with me at any point in time, he is a Raiders fan, so maybe that explains it. Just saying, that might explain it. Tongue in cheek, and I'm teasing Gabe.
Aaron, what do you think of the Kamala Harris interview?
Well, of course, it was a total fraud. It was a total con. She's been there. She's been on the public dough for 25 years. Her mentor's been on the public dough for 50 years. So it's been it was a total sham. I didn't watch the interview. When it comes to 60 Minutes, when it comes to politics, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. So I just don't bother. And this consensus bill, and you guys are definite. What is a consistent builder? Because obviously she's not. Joe Biden's not. So what is a consistent builder in your guys' opinion?
That's good. It's someone that, and all politicians will talk about this, the idea of reaching across the aisle. It is that horse trading. It's the idea of some give and take. A consensus builder is someone that comes together and tries to get everybody rowing in the same direction. And that can be Republicans and Democrats. That can be just inside of the Democrats or just inside the Republican Party. And an example would be where both current Speaker Johnson and the former Speaker worked on trying to get all of the Republicans moving in the same direction to get a budget or a continuing resolution passed or anything else. All of that is about building consensus. Like her or dislike her, I think one of the best examples of a political consensus builder, not across the aisle, but inside of the party, was Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi behind the scenes knew exactly how to get everybody into line if she wanted to move something forward.
Do you think consensus works if you're using a hammer? I mean, it's like,
at times,
the idea of like punishing your political opponents, because I do political leaders behind the stage, in the back room, are pretty vicious.
Oh yeah, they can be, and I think it does take a hammer sometimes. But Aaron, continue.
All I can say in closing, guys, she's not a consensus builder. I'm with Jeff totally. Trump is not a consensus builder, but Trump is the bull in the China show, and that's why he'll be back with the oath January 20, 2025. Trump will be back in office and will continue to be that bull in the China shop that Jeff talks about. But anyway,
Aaron, hold on real quick. Are you going to go to the rally in Aurora?
Well, I go to the rally when is the rally in Aurora?
So Donald Trump is going to be in Colorado this Friday, October 11th, 1 p.m. at the Gaylord in Aurora. And if you text the show here at 720-819-5115, we'll send you the registration link. But we've only got one. I would say I can't say that.
That's the only one.
I was going to say we only got one shot at him.
Yeah.
No, you can't say that
No,
anymore.
no, can't say that.
We only got one time that he's going to be here, and people should take advantage of it. And I don't think Kamala's been yet.
No,
I know Tim Walz went to Aspen, maybe.
I think he's been here.
I mean, of course, I love to attend, but unfortunately, I'm a hard-working stiff. I have to go to work, but unfortunately, I gotta.
That's
go
why
to work.
we love you, Aaron. But if you need a doctor's slip, we'll provide one for you. Bill can forge.
Oh yeah, I can forge lots of signatures.
Yeah. I mean, I love to attend, but unfortunately, because unfortunately, like I said, I have to go to work, try to figure how to pay $35 trillion in debt with this consensus builder, so-called consensus builder, which is of course a load of ass. But anyway, you guys have a good morning.
Hey, thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron. What do you think? Is Kamala Harris the great consensus builder that she portrays herself to be? Give us a call, 303-696-1971, or text the show on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. 15. Bill, you had to go by Balance Well Space.
Yeah, I swung by Balance Well Space, saw Dr. Julie yesterday. It was great to catch up with her. We had some time to just chat. But most importantly, she did a little bit of a reevaluation of where my pain is, what's going on with me. Let me talk to you about Balance Well Space. They have changed my life, and I want you to go and talk to them as well. I never really understood what integrative medicine was until I sat down with the team at Balance Well Space. Integrative medicine is taking a whole bunch of different treatments and combining them under one roof. So it's basically like a mini mall where you're going from office to office to office, getting all of these different treatments, and it's only one appointment, one time, one day out of your week. At Balance Well Space, they can take care of your chiropractic needs, neuropathic care, physical rehabilitation, wave therapy, regenerative care, trigger point injections, and so much more, plus some cutting-edge, non-invasive procedures that are really remarkable. You have to see them to believe them. They're next-level Star Trek type stuff, bright red lights and things like that. But here's why it's important to you. They take a look at what you are doing and not doing. What's your pain level like? What's those things that are hurting? How's your neuropathy? What's going on with, you've got a disc in your back that's causing problems. Maybe you're like me and you've got a torn meniscus in your knee. Maybe it's some of your tendons or things in your ankles. But bottom line is, all of those things are preventing you from living your life to the fullest. And it doesn't have to be that way. Without surgery, you can get back to doing exactly what you've been wanting to. But you can't do it until you talk to my friends at Balance Well Space. Check them out at balancewellspace.com, balancewellspace.com. They have brand new offices in Lowry, right across from Hangar 2, plenty of parking. Right now, as we're talking, I'm regenerating the meniscus in my left knee. I'm going to be out there at that Donald Trump rally, and I'm going to be standing up the whole time, probably. But I wouldn't be able to do that pain-free if I hadn't talked to Balance Well Space. They're taking care of the pain in my back. The tingling in my legs is gone. A lot of the problems I was having with my right shoulder is gone, and now we're regenerating the meniscus in my left knee. My left knee is becoming my stronger of my two knees, which is mind-blowing. I want them to make the same change in your life they are making in mine. But in order to do that, you've got to talk to them first. balancewellspace.com. Check them out, balancewellspace.com. I want them to change your life like they've changed mine. It's nothing short of remarkable. Take the first step. Talk to them today. And when you do, tell them you heard about them here on the Jeff and Bill Show. We appreciate it.
Great to hear that, Bill. We'll continue with your phone calls and conversations. Text us. Did you see the interview with Kamala Harris last night on 60 Minutes? Finally, it's like the first interview of a person who wants to be the president of the United States, the most powerful person in the world, actually getting asked some tough questions by the media, and it did not turn out well for Kamala Harris. We'll continue our coverage of that. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Kamala Harris, not a good interview yesterday on 60 Minutes. Here she is about immigration.
I've been covering the border for years. And so I know this is not a problem that started with your administration.
Correct.
But there was an historic flood of undocumented immigrants coming across the border the first 3 years of your administration. As a matter of fact, arrivals quadrupled from the last year of President Trump. Was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies as much as you did?
It's a long-standing problem. And solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally, we have been offering solutions.
What I was asking was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem. Okay.
But the numbers did quadruple.
And the
under
numbers
your
today,
watch.
because of what we have done, we have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
Should you
We
have
have
done
cut
that?
the
Should you
flow
have
of
done that?
fentanyl by half, but we need Congress to be able to act to actually fix the problem.
Okay, I just want to take a moment there, and I want to point out something, just for a sec, because of some text messages you received yesterday. The interviewer interrupted the guest when the guest didn't answer the question. I'm just saying it's not me, people. Not me only. Thank you. I feel so much better now. Okay. That was her worst answer the entire night, though. That was awful. And good job on Bill for pushing them. That was really well done.
I agree. I think it was
really
good that he pressed her on it.
Yeah,
I don't get
really
why. And this is why I will never make a politician.
Yeah.
Because it would have been so easy to be like, gosh, Bill, we got that one wrong.
Yeah. And here's the other thing.
We got that one wrong. We realized it and we fixed it. And I want to work with Congress moving forward to make sure we come up with a real solution.
I'll do you one better. Now, again, it's a lie, but I'll do you one better. What could have been done, and again, why she didn't have this prepped, I don't know. What could have been done is, well, that was part of a multi-pronged solution we had. We wanted to loosen these up, and then we were working with our partners in Congress to do X, Y, and Z, but it was the Republicans that stopped us from doing this. We could have accomplished if it wasn't for those dirty, stinking, rotten Republicans. She could have taken the answer and pivoted to something. Again, it's not fair, it's not correct,
yes,
but it's political, and she could have, there was so many other things she could have done with that, but I appreciate the interviewer for pounding her on it.
I wonder if American people are just, can we get over the idea that a politician can never do wrong?
Yeah.
And just, I feel like people would be like, whew, I kind of like it.
Yeah,
we got that one wrong. But the idea that like day one, you were turning over all of Trump's immigration issues. And then you had 3 years of the flood of illegal immigrants. And then you figured, well, gosh, this has become a political problem and you might want to do something about it. And then they addressed the asylum issue. But goodness gracious.
That was her worst moment in the entire conversation and the best moment for the interviewer. She did a great job.
Right.
Again, he interrupted her.
You could tell by her body language that she was like collapsing during the interview.
Yeah, she was uncertain about that one. Yeah, you could see some of it. Some you could see where she was.
This was a bad idea.
Yeah, there were some where you could see where she was positive about it. But there were some where you could see her pull back a little bit.
Let's go to the phone lines. We'll start with Joan. Good morning, Joan. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Morning.
Good morning. First, I want to say, how about them Broncos?
Oh, that was wonderful. Yeah, we won our bet with Gabe.
Great. Yeah, and that just made everything very, very happy. And around the Bronco game, there were commercials. And there were commercials for the Dem, and there was commercials for the Republican. And it was all CD8. And I was stunned to see that Gabe got in a commercial that was paid for by the Republican Congressional Committee.
Well, that's a key seat, and they're going to pour hopefully millions of dollars into it. But yeah, it's it is a key time, particularly around some of those hot congressional races.
Yeah. Now, Joan, you're plugged into these. You're somewhat of I wouldn't say an activist, but you're someone that is definitely involved in politics. Can you briefly, for us, just briefly, critique the messages you heard in the Gabe Evans spot and critique the messages you heard in the Yadira Caraveo spot. What did you think of them?
Well, first of all, there were 3 Caraveo commercials to Evans commercials. So I think the Dems are still outspending. And the Caraveo is trying really hard to move to the middle. And she talked about how she's reaching across the aisles to
She's a
Republicans.
consensus builder.
Yep.
I know, that's why I called. Because
They're
I was thinking,
not
like,
consensus
what
builders.
kind of consensus
They're-
builder do I know? And it's like, oh, that woman Caraveo. And I'm sitting here going, somewhere, some Dem did some focus group and found out that consensus building is something that appeals
It's
to-
classic
Oh, yeah, it
political work, but
Yep, it is.
Republicans aren't running on consensus building anymore. We're
Which is
running
weird.
on ripping and tearing down,
Yeah.
except for the wall. We're going to put the wall up. All right, Joan, thanks so much for the
Yeah,
call.
thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Let's go to Marty, Denver. Good morning, Marty. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Morning.
Gentlemen, great stuff. I want to get right to the point. We saw a hurricane in the Appalachian Mountains, and now you see a storm brewing in the Gulf of Mexico, going to hit tomorrow. That is now, they've never seen anything like it. It's now a new category of hurricane. How close are you, gentlemen, to coming to the realization that these storms are being manufactured and sent as weapons? How close are you getting to that point now?
Well, the only weather manipulation I've seen or I know of is what happens in the ski resorts to make it snow a little bit. I don't know of their ability to make a hurricane.
Yeah. I haven't
Okay,
seen
so
anything
the
that shows
patents
ability
that
to make a hurricane at all.
Have you seen the patents that have become pretty mainstream on social media that shows the Department of Defense, the U.S. military, with actual hurricane and tornado directing technologies? HARP. Do you guys know what HARP is? HARP is an instrument used by the Air Force to do this. I'm just telling you, much like how Building 7 fell down 8 hours later in a perfect kind of orchestrated dance, and it fell down casually like a demolition in Las Vegas, you're seeing the same thing happen right now. The reason these storms have never happened,
But why would
nature
they
can't
use
do
it for good, like with all the water problems we have in the Western United States?
Why wouldn't they use it for good? The
Yeah,
tornadoes?
like well, not tornadoes, but I mean, if you could,
Or the
if you
hurricanes?
could manufacture a storm, water's like gold out here. We never have enough of it, and you could change the entire Western United States with lots of water. Why don't they use
Well,
it for that?
I guess the idea being is, do you think fundamentally, Jeff, your government is for you or against you? You have to answer that question when you lay down at night. I'm very comfortable knowing that this government, whether it's Republican-led or Democrat-led, is not up at night worried about, geez, is Marty's kids have enough to eat? And is there, they don't care. But when you can wipe out, and this is all white people, unfortunately, the response is the other part of this thing. You have a deadly storm, guys, and then Billy, pop quiz, natural disaster hits your hometown. Who do you want in the office? Kamala Harris and Alejandro Mayorkas, or Donald Trump and his team? You got to answer that question too when disaster
Yeah,
hits,
at
Billy.
this point, I'd take Harris because I remember during, and you know why? I remember during Hurricane Matthew, and I'm explaining it to you, Marty. I remember during Hurricane Matthew when they had requested hundreds of millions of dollars to rebuild in North Carolina right after Matthew, and Trump gave them 6.1 million total, 1% of what they asked for. So if I'm in my town and I'm worried about being able to rebuild after a horrible storm, well, so far the track record is that the Biden-Harris administration cuts the checks and the Trump administration cuts your legs off. So that who am I to trust to make the point? Who am I to trust to pay the bills? It would be them. But the other part is this, I would be curious about, and again, we don't have enough time here, but the other part that's real interesting in this is that I hear from a lot of people about small government until we have something like a disaster. And now government can't be big enough.
Well, most of the
Government can't be
critique
big
I
enough for it.
hear is the interference that FEMA ran from people trying to help others. So
Yeah, and I can see that,
people
and that's a
were
liability
willing
issue.
to happy to go in there and try to help people.
Yeah,
It was
thanks for the call, Martin.
interference.
Yeah, that's a liability issue. mostly.
Also, reminder, there was a hurricane in New Jersey in 2012, which attacked a blue state. So I don't know. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, October 8th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You can get the Jeff and Bill on KNUS. I'm your co-host, along with Bill Ford, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. It's a beautiful day in the greatest country in history, apparently controlling its own weather and weaponizing it against its people. Thank you, Marty, but come on, man. Show me that we're actually using it. Show me not just a patent.
Yeah.
But show me that.
And the whole idea about HARP too. You're like, wow, that's
like why wouldn't we get rid of tornadoes?
Yeah.
Like they did in Twisters.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you do that? Why don't you break them up?
No, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Show me some evidence other than a patent somewhere.
Yeah.
Because you can patent anything.
And I also like the idea that it's that if we did have that ability, that we would use it for nefarious purposes. Which again,
Dr. Evil.
If we could, why aren't we sending tornadoes and hurricanes to Iran? Why aren't we just running tornadoes all the way across Iran right now? I mean, if we really could do it, that would make a heck of a lot of sense, because how could they blame us? How could they possibly blame us for anything that happened if we did that?
And hurricanes, could you imagine a hurricane hitting Iran?
Oh, I know.
With all the sand and all that, they wouldn't know what to do. But look, a reminder, and I got to this at the very end, 2012, a hurricane in October smacked New Jersey upside the head.
Yeah.
In 2012, when Barack Obama needed New Jersey, they got hit with a hurricane, and generally people responded and everybody got over it.
Maybe he just made the weather controllers mad. And what was it? Oh, God, what was the holy crap? Okay, wait. Come on, brain. Come on. Okay, brain. Oh, yes. G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, the cartoon that was popular. They had a machine. Oh, what was it called? The Weather Dominator. It was called the Weather Dominator. They had a machine. Cobra had a machine called the Weather Dominator.
You go pull that file cabinet out in your brain.
Yes, I had to. I know it's there. I know it's there somewhere. Yeah, they had the Weather Dominator, and that was the idea. I mean, Cobra was going to take over the Earth and stuff because they were going to control the weather. So maybe that's it. Maybe Marty and others think we've discovered the Weather Dominator.
I would. I believe we could be in a spot where people were controlling weather if there was stronger evidence we're controlling weather.
Yeah.
And the only evidence I've seen that we are controlling weather is cloud seeding that happens in Colorado in the ski resorts where they shoot like a salt up and they get it to snow.
Yep. That's basically it. Yeah. That's all we can do. Don't have anything else so far. Oh, well, but it's a fun conversation.
It is interesting to go to those places.
Yes, it is.
And apparently that's where Marty does before bed.
Yes.
Like he said, he
does his research on G.I. Joe cartoons. It's okay.
The Weather Dominator.
Yes.
Oh, we love you, Marty.
That was amazing. I couldn't
believe
that.
After news and comment with Blake Olson, Sam Bandimere is going to join us. He's a candidate for Senate District 19. It's an important district in Colorado. Lindsay Dougherty is running in that, and this is currently a Dem-controlled Senate district, and get back in Republican hands if Sam Bandimere does the work. We'll ask him all about that and more. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. 48 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 81 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story.
If Kamala will lie to you so brazenly about Joe Biden's mental incapacity, then she will lie to you about anything. She can never, ever be trusted. She can't be trusted. Head hate on me. Can't stop DJT. And I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me.
Former President Trump returning to Colorado, this time to the Front Range. He'll hold a campaign rally Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock this Friday in Aurora at the Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. Tickets available. Trump claims the city is turned into a war zone because of violent Venezuelan prison gang members terrorizing apartment complexes. Neighbors would agree, but not the mayor.
By the way, if you want the link, text the Dan Caplis Law text line here at 710KNUS, and we'll send you the registration link. That's 720-819-5115.
Hey, and also I have a question. This has bothered me for like 20 years. On your Twitter account, I'm probably the only one who says /forward, not backward slash on your X account.
Is that a forward? No.
Well, to me it is.
A backslash.
But if it leans, if it leans left to right, wouldn't that be forward
slash?
No, I mean, I'm the only one who says this. You're probably correct, but I want to hear what Billy has to say.
You're right, dude.
Is that a backward slash or a forward slash? See, everybody says backward slash, and I always look at it. Well,
it's a
I'm
forward
reading.
slash. You're exactly right, dude.
Thank you.
You
Thank
win.
you. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but
so here's what somebody
I
did
win.
to
Thank
try
you.
to prove this. Imagine the slash as a stick man.
Okay.
And he's walking forward. So he's looking forward as opposed to leaning back.
Yes. Yeah,
So there
because
you go,
I mean,
dude.
if we read right to left, I would say that would be a backward slash, but it's left
way
to
to go,
right. So
Blake.
thank you. I appreciate it. All right, guy, I feel great right now. Kamala Khan's doing comedy today, 3 shows. The Howard Stern Show, who's a big lefty now. He did blackface and dropped the N-bomb like 5 or 6 times and was never canceled by the lefties. How does that happen? She's doing The View. That should be really hard-hitting and gross. And then Steve and I was never funny Colbert. Let's see. She was on 60 Minutes, and the woman who can barely hold a shovel says that she owns a Glock and fires it at the range. Hear that, lefties?
A hard left turn here, but you recently surprised people when you said that you are a gun owner. And then if someone came into your
That
house,
was not the first time I've
they would get
talked about
shot.
it. That's not the first time I've talked about it.
what kind of gun do you own, and when and why did you get it?
I have a Glock, and I've had it for quite some time. And I mean, look, Bill, my background is in law enforcement, and so there you go.
Have you ever fired it?
Yes, of course I have. At a shooting range. Yes, of course I have.
Everybody run. Kamala Khan's got a gun. All right. A man who was shot and killed by an Aurora police officer last week was not carrying an AR-15 rifle when he was encountered by police. Police Chief Todd Chamberlain announced Monday that the suspect was holding a weapon, but that it was identified after the shooting as a tactical air rifle. Florida's Gulf Coast is about to be hit by Hurricane Milton, and people are being ordered to evacuate. The Category 4 storm is expected to hit tomorrow night or early Thursday. They're expecting winds as high as 155 miles per hour. President Biden has approved Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' request for emergency declaration. The White House says the Federal Emergency Management Agency has the funding needed, but FEMA money for Americans has been ripped off by this regime and given to illegals, even though Karine Jean-Pierre says that is not true. Elon Musk on with Tucker. Why are a lot of billionaires supporting Kamala Khan?
You know, I think part of why Kamala is getting so much support is that if Trump wins, that Epstein client list is going to become public.
Yes.
And some of those billionaires behind Kamala are terrified of that outcome.
Yeah. Do you think Reid Hoffman's uncomfortable?
Yes.
Yeah.
And Gates.
And Gates.
Yeah.
And I only ask that because you just look at them and you're like, that's a nervous person right there. I don't know. I mean, I assume you know them. Yeah.
Yes. Reid Hoffman was my vice president of business development at PayPal.
Yeah.
24 years ago.
Does he seem nervous to you?
Yeah. I mean, he's terrified of a Trump victory.
Because of the disclosure that would follow?
I think, yeah. I mean, I think he's certainly ideologically not aligned with Trump anyway, but I think he is concerned about the Epstein situation.
Interesting. All right, here we go. 46 in Greenwood Village, 43 in Boulder, 48 in Denver. Jeff and Bill continue.
Trump will be back in office and will continue to be that bull in the China shop.
I love Aaron. Tuesday morning, Blake Olson News Talk 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. Your 710 5-day forecast. Once again, mostly sunny skies for today. Highs will be in the lower 80s with partly cloudy skies tonight, and lows going to be in the lower and mid-50s. Expect lower 80s for Wednesday and Thursday. A few spots might even hit the mid-80s. Continued mostly sunny and dry. Lows low and mid-50s, low 80s on Friday. Weather brought to you by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or income for life. Get your review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
All right, one of the big battles in the upcoming election is over control. Democrats have a supermajority in the House, and they're hanging on by one vote from having a supermajority in the Senate. If that happens, radical Democrats down at the Colorado State Capitol can do whatever they want. Jared Polis couldn't even stop them because they could override his veto. So the Senate really matters. Running for Colorado State Senate District 19 is Sam Bandimere. Yes, from that family, the racetrack owning family. Sam Bandimere joins us on the Jeff and Bill Show. Good morning, Sam. Great to have you with us.
Morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good to be with you this morning. I don't know who's controlling Colorado's weather, but they can continue with this weather we're having as far as I'm concerned.
I know. It's nice, no warm. Sam, let's start. We're getting a little bit of an echo. We'll see if we can edit that out here. But let's talk about who you are. Introduce yourself to our listeners.
Well, thank you. As a native, I grew up in a Colorado where the American dream was alive. And it's my desire and purpose to return those values for our future generations. I enlisted in the Navy at the age of 17, did 2 tours in Vietnam. So I served my country at a young age. And now here I am at the other end of my life. And I look back at these generations coming, and I can't leave the mess that we've got. So I'm running to restore fiscal responsibility and limited government to Colorado. Specifically, my priorities are, number one, to repeal the Colorado bag law and make it convenient to go shopping again. And by the way, we are getting great traction on that issue. I also want to reduce and control property taxes, eliminate state taxes that are masquerading as fees, encourage the development and adoption of a net zero energy program and reduce our carbon emissions and the current load on our electrical grid system. My home is a net zero, and so we know how to do that. I also, in relation to that, I want to repeal the laws and regulations that hinder the development of Colorado's natural gas and oil production. So, you can look at all my issues on my website at samforcolorado.com. And it has all the details for my policies and proposals there.
Yeah, you really do lay it out very well here. You contrast yourself with your opponent. You want to preserve the Taxpayer Bill of Rights. You want to lower taxes. You want to protect Tabor tax refunds. You want to end sanctuary cities, coordinate state agencies with ICE. So you do a really good job of contrasting yourself with your opponent. Look, this is a tough district. Senate District 19 is where Rachel Zenzinger is the incumbent. She's going to be termed out.
That's right.
And she won by 19 points. So give us your plan on how you aim to bridge that gap.
Well, first of all, I think the American or the Colorado people our constituency is fed up with the economy, with this immigration issue, all the issues that we're facing out here. And, the Dems own it. They've been in power here in Colorado for over 12 years. They own this, where we're at. So I think the people are ready for a change. And then it doesn't hurt that I have that last name of Bandimere. I can tell you, as we're out knocking on doors, talking to people. There's very few people that doesn't know that last name. And whenever they say, oh, you're related to the Bandimeres, you got my vote. So that's going to help.
Well, it's a name that deserves to be respected because not only has the Bandimere family invested and created lots of jobs, created a wonderful racetrack, but they're civic leaders as well. They're engaged with shaping the direction of the state. So it is a name that should be respected. We're talking with Sam Bandimere, by the way. He's running for Senate District 19. His website, samforcolorado.com. That's samforcolorado.com. I want to talk about the bag fee because, my goodness, it's annoying, right? I myself have walked out with groceries in my hands, and then you put them in the car and they roll all around in the car, and then you got to put them all back into your arms and carry them into the house. Sam, I'm so glad you picked up on this issue. Is this something you learned just talking to people? What were some of the issues that people are telling you are the top issues that they're concerned about?
Well, the way I came upon that issue was when I decided to run. I was down at Safeway doing some shopping, and a lady was trying to check out, and she'd forgotten her bag, and she was just complaining about, not having her bags, and it was going to cost her for each bag she had to buy, it was going to cost her over a couple of dollars on her bags. And I was standing in line there, and I says, ma'am, I'm going to be running for state senate, and would it be helpful if we repealed that bag law? She said, sir, if you can do that, you got my vote. And that's what, I've talked to a lot of people, and that has really been an issue that's bugging a lot of people. So, and it's not about the bag, okay? It's not about the bag. It's about the money. And, that's not a tax on that bag. The bags are still there. It's a fee. And so that's symbolic of the other issues I want to deal with, and that is, you go down to renew the plates on your vehicle. There's that tax that we've all agreed to on that license plate. But then underneath that, all those fees went around Tabor. They couldn't go through Tabor with all those, so they conveniently call it a fee. So we're going to look at all of those. So the bag is really just a symbolic issue of all those fees that we want to look at.
Hear, hear. Sam, that sounds great. Let's talk now about immigration. Donald Trump's going to be here on Friday to address some of the immigration challenges that Aurora's dealt with. We're a sanctuary state. Denver is a sanctuary city. It put up a big banner. We heart immigrants, 40,000 illegal immigrants, and we spent $100 million giving them ATM cards, giving them 6 months of rent. All of this is just putting other people first, not the citizens of our own state. You write here, you want a strong and secure border is essential for national liberty. You will fight to implement smart and effective measures to protect Colorado and our country. You support a fair and efficient immigration policy that upholds our laws. Would you repeal Colorado being a sanctuary state?
Absolutely. I mean, Colorado needs to be a non-sanctuary state. And then we need to revoke the benefits that all these illegal immigrants are getting. That's bankrupting us. And we need a mandatory cooperation between our agencies and ICE. I mean, right now, they can't communicate. So you arrest someone and you can't turn them over to ICE. So I'm for getting that communication going where ICE can deport these illegal immigrants. Now, a lot of people say, well, you arrest one and send them home. You're just giving them a free ride home to go see their family and all that, and they'll be right back. Well, I'm for imposing if we deport them and they come back and we arrest them, it's a 10-year sentence for them.
I mean, look, you got to create deterrence. Now, let's talk about Senate District 19. So this spans from Arvada, northwest of Westminster, along 36 into Arrowhead, Wallace Village, Layden Junction, and so kind of the northwest part of Denver, up there in Westminster. Talk to folks about the district.
Yeah, the way I describe it is my eastern border is basically Sheridan. It runs from I-70 up Sheridan all the way to Broomfield. So that's my eastern border. Then it goes west all the way out to it jogs on the west side, but basically Indiana. So it takes in half of Westminster, all of Arvada, and all of Leiden is basically the area it covers. So it's Sheridan all the way to Indiana with some jogs over there on the west side, and then from I-70 up to Broomfield. So that's kind of the area it covers.
Sam Bandimere, candidate for Senate District 19, joining Jeff and Bill live. Thanks for the time this morning, sir. One of the things that you talked about were those fees that are masquerading as taxes. I'm not going to hold you to this, but what are some of your ideas to change those from fees into taxes or to repeal them? And the reason I ask is because the Democrats have found a way around the rule. And getting them on board with you is going to be very difficult. They're already on that sugar fix. What strategies, plans, ideas do you have to change the course of them always using fees instead of taxes?
Well, obviously, I'm a strong supporter of Tabor, and it's going to be an item-by-item issue to go through all those fees. Goodness, there's a lot of them out there. And there are some of them I understand that are legal, but all the ones that went around Tabor, they've got to be repealed. They're illegal. So it's a matter of going through all those fees, and for whatever they're supporting. For instance, the bag law, the 10 cents you pay for a bag. I have yet to have anybody tell me what that 10 cents goes for. So in other words, it's not doing anything that people are receiving a benefit from that they know of. And so the rest of those fees, like for instance on the DOT, all those fees, can you tell me what all those fees do for you? So it's not like the people are going to miss those fees that we repeal. And we'll take a careful look at the ones that will affect our people, and then send them back through Tabor. Get their approval on them.
Now, one of the things you also talked about, Sam Bandimere, a candidate for Senate District 19 here in Colorado, was the idea of reducing our property taxes. What did you think of the special session deal that the Democrats, the Republicans came with? What did you think? Just kind of a thumbnail sketch. What do you think were any positives out of it? What do you think were negatives out of it?
Well, my opponent is very proud of what the work they did there. And basically what they did is, took a huge chunk in our property taxes this year, and then they give us back a few bucks, right? They give us a couple $100 back. And then to make things worse, they're going to allow a 4% increase per year for the next 5 years that we don't get to vote on, by the way. They put that right into the bill, which means in 5 years, they're going to get a 20% increase. Do you think the average person here in Colorado is going to get a 20% increase in their pay over the next 5 years? I doubt it. So I'm more in favor of a property tax that's kind of goes along the lines of California's Prop 13 style, where when you buy a piece of property, that locks you in at your tax level for what you paid for your home. Just because a neighbor pays a higher price for their house next door to you shouldn't make your taxes go up. It kind of goes along the lines of Prop 13.
Sam Bandimere is running for Senate District 19. Now, this is a Senate district that's bounced back and forth. So Evie Hudak beat Lang Sias in 2012 there by, less than 600 votes. And then Laura Woods won in 2014. And then in 2016, Rachel Zenzinger won that race and has been controlled by Democrats since. So you have a real opportunity to get a Republican elected here. Sam Bandimere His website, samforcolorado.com, samforcolorado.com, and he embraces that racing heritage right in his own logo there, which I love. Now, Sam, last question. What have you actually driven at the Bandimere racetrack? Have you gotten behind a car there before?
I haven't. I've been a businessman my whole life, more in the construction industry. So everybody asks me, well, do you get free tickets to go into Bandimere Speedway? And I say, no, I pay for my tickets when I go in there. My cousin needs to make a living just like everybody.
You're supporting the family. But
I'm supporting the family. That's right. I'll pay for my ticket just like you do.
I'd always wanted to get behind those ones that are really long and thin with the tiny little wheels up front and then the really big wheels in the back. And,
the dragsters.
The dragsters. Yeah.
There you go.
But that might be why you're still alive, Sam, is you didn't get behind one of those. So.
Yeah.
Sam Bandimere.
License to drive one of those.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Sam for Colorado is his website. Sam, thanks so much for being on the Jeff and Bill Show today.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you so much. Hope we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. We'll have you on, Senator, when that victory comes through. Sam Bandimere, samforcolorado.com. Speaking of great guys, I got to talk to you about Dr. Mike and Rocky Mountain Dental Group. With all the work I've had done to my teeth, believe me, finding a good dentist makes all the difference. I'd like to talk to you about Dr. Mike and the Rocky Mountain Dental Group. He helps people like you and me look and feel amazing by providing the best dental care available. See for yourself all the 5-star reviews at RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. Here's one. I've been going there for over 20 years. Dr. Mike and his entire staff are outstanding. I like the fact that the same person always cleans my teeth. If you need an awesome dentist, Dr. Mike is your guy. If your gums are receding, that happens as you get older, especially if you had braces later in life. It's critical to address this issue promptly. Dr. Mike is a top-tier expert in the Chow pinhole surgical technique. This method requires no downtime, no sutures, and virtually no cutting. The procedure involves making a small hole in the tissue and gently repositioning the gums. Schedule a free consultation with Dr. Mike to discover the benefits of this revolutionary procedure. Call 303-233-1335 or visit RockyMountainDentalGroup.com. That's RockyMountainDentalGroup.com to book your free consultation today. 303-233-1335. All right, we'll continue with our analysis of Kamala Harris's disaster. Is a story about a dude and a wood chipper, bro. That is like literally what your nightmares are made out of.
It is a nightmare.
This guy in Colorado survived, though. We'll get that story and more. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Weil in Dallas, and here are your top stories. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sent a letter demanding that the Biden-Harris administration provide any and all information that it has about the citizenship status of people who may be illegally registered to vote in Texas. Paxton asked for the list of about 450,000 voters whose citizenship status has never been verified by the Texas Secretary of State, so he can send it to the federal government himself. After the SOS ignored his request, he contacted the vets himself, saying it's imperative he receives the info because states are not allowed to require proof of citizenship when people register to vote in federal elections. In the letter, Paxton is demanding full cooperation from the federal government to ensure that any non-citizens remaining on Texas's voter registration rolls are identified. The Biden-Harris administration is legally obligated to assist states in doing so, he said, and it's imperative that we use every tool available to uphold the integrity of our elections. The U.S. Federal Trade Commission's case accusing Amazon of At this hour, I'm Christina Weil in Dallas, and here are your top stories. After a shooting sparked officials to clear out a homeless camp in Seattle, the body of a woman who has been missing for a year was found stuffed inside of a suitcase at the homeless encampment. Volunteers from We Heart Seattle found the body of 37-year-old Shannon Marie Caslin Reeder while they were cleaning up. One volunteer telling local media that it was the worst thing he's ever seen. According to Washington State Patrol, she had been stuffed inside of a large suitcase, which was left dumped underneath a pile of trash. The King County Medical Examiner's Office is now working to figure out how she died. The U.S. State Department has overcharged millions of Americans over 2 decades with a $60 fee to fast-track passport applications, according to a new lawsuit filed in a California federal court. The class action lawsuit filed by a resident of Oakland said the State Department's fee for an expedited 2 to 3 week turnaround was unjustified. Routine processing takes 4 to 6 weeks. Applicants already pay $100 or more for new passports or renewals. The lawsuit asked the court to declare the $60 fee excessive and order the return or refund of all expedited passport processing fees unlawfully and arbitrarily charged during the class period. The State Department raised the price for the service from $35 to $60 back in 2002. The Georgia Supreme Court halted a ruling striking down the state's 6-week abortion ban while it considers the state's appeal. In Dallas, Christina Weil, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Just wrapped up a great conversation with Sam Bandimere. He's running for Senate District 19. Yes, that family, Bandimere, the racetrack family, running to get that district, Senate District 19, which is currently controlled by Democrats, back into Republican hands. You can check out his website at sam4colorado.com. All right, I want to go back to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz's disastrous interview on 60 Minutes yesterday. We've covered Kamala. Here's Tim. Here's Tim.
Walz has been criticized for embellishing or telling outright falsehoods about his military record and about his travels to Asia in the 1980s. In your debate with J.D. Vance, you said, I'm a knucklehead at times. And I think you were referring to the time that you said that you were in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square unrest when you were not.
Yeah.
Is that kind of misrepresentation, isn't that more than just being a knucklehead?
I think folks know who I am, and I think they know the difference between someone expressing emotion, telling a story, getting a date wrong rather than a pathological liar like Donald Trump.
But I think it comes down to the question of whether you can be trusted to tell the truth.
Yeah, well, I can. I think I can. I will own up to being a knucklehead at times, but the folks closest to me know that I keep my word.
All right, I can give him a little bit of a pass on the Tiananmen Square stuff, but the military ranking, which that Bill Whitaker initially talks to, that's not being a knucklehead. That's not an easy dismissal. And he hasn't really addressed that. He keeps skipping over to this idea that, well, I visited China a little bit after Tiananmen Square took place, but I mean, what Bill Whitaker, listen to it again. What Bill talks about originally is the military stuff.
Walz has been criticized for embellishing or telling outright falsehoods about his military record and about his travels to Asia in the 1980s.
So it's one thing to kind of do the date thing, but that military record stuff, that's not being a knucklehead.
I don't know. I mean, the thing is, what is the military stuff? And again, and oddly enough, and I can, we can jump back a couple of months, and everyone said that I was a fool, and I said that, in fact, when the gunnery sergeant was on with us, I challenged whether or not this idea would stick of the stolen valor. So, what military stuff are we talking about? Are we talking about the ranking that he talked about afterwards, or the weapons of war comment, or is there something else?
Well, I think it's probably the ranking, right? Isn't that what Bill Whitaker's referencing there?
I'm not sure what he's referencing there, but even then, the ranking, according to the National Guard that he worked, he was awarded that rank. He didn't finish programs to complete and then retired at a lesser rank. That's it. But he did achieve and serve as that rank.
How are you awarded something and then not finish the training and then retire a lower rank, but then you can't claim that you got the rank?
But he did serve in that rank. And so again, he can be wrong technically about retiring as that, but the idea that he never had that rank nor served, nor did people refer to him as that rank is wrong. He did. Service members at that time referred to him being in that rank, and that was awarded by the National Guard, and they've come out with paperwork.
Wasn't he handing out coins too, according to that rank? I mean, this isn't a right-wing conspiracy, because Bill Whitaker from 60 Minutes addresses it, and he just skips right over it. He's like, I don't know. The dates in China were wrong.
Yeah. And again, I'm not certain, but again, I don't think that regardless, it's not necessarily going to stick per se. The whole idea of the stolen valor, that's not the strongest argument. And the same thing with the weapons of war comment, phenomenally stupid. And he did an okay job. Walz did in answering the Tiananmen Square question there. At least he was more forward than he was during the debate.
The debate
at least he learned something there. Yeah. But I do think that he backed into his correct answer. His answer should have been, Donald Trump and JD Vance lie all the time. I did blah, blah, blah. I was wrong about this because of a couple of months, but that pales into comparison to, and then run through 2 or 3 things. And we only have to go back a couple of weeks to do eating the dogs, eating the cats. That would have been a stronger answer at that point, because what he was trying to do was turn it on its head and point it back to Donald Trump. But he did that very, very poorly, incredibly poorly. And Bill Whitaker just wandered on by, said, "You just sucked at that," and just kept going. And it was smart, because he did not do a good job answering that question.
Do you think Tim Walz is doing a good job as a VP candidate?
I think that he is doing an okay job. I think he's doing a better job than JD Vance is doing personally. And the reason by that is I believe that Tim Walz he's giving more people permission to vote for the ticket than JD Vance is. JD Vance, some of the things that he has said, some of his interactions, when he speaks in public, not the strongest. Walz, it seems like everybody's, the grandfather, the uncle, the teacher, he's more approachable. I'm not certain how many votes he's winning for Kamala Harris, but I think he is allowing a permission structure.
The strategy was, we're going to go after Midwest people and lock down Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota with Tim Walz. Look, the debate, I want to go back to the debate last week. I can't believe that was just last week.
I know. I was thinking about that too. I'm like, seriously? A week ago? Oh, my Lord.
Obviously, Vance did a lot better than Walz did, came across better prepared, more confident. Walz seemed overwhelmed, outside of where his comfort zone. And I can grant, I actually didn't think Walz did that bad. If you remember, if you go back, and I was like, well, he started off a little rough, but then, he seemed to finish okay. I don't know if Walz is delivering that much for Kamala Harris at this point. He's coming across as goofy, a little unprepared, and then not honest. I mean, if 60 Minutes can hammer you like this.
Walz has been criticized for embellishing or telling outright falsehoods about his military record and about his travels to Asia in the 1980s.
That is a heck of a condemnation coming from 60 Minutes.
Yeah.
And yeah, granted, he didn't look as bad as Kamala Harris did during her challenging questions. But I just don't I don't see him pulling it in. But there's always the question of how much the vice president actually matters on this.
Yeah, it's a question about how much the vice president actually matters. Here's the thing: is I think that Walz resonates with more of those Midwestern voters than J.D. Vance does, and the reason for that is Walz has the National Guard experience, while J.D. Vance has the Marine experience. But Walz served for 20 years versus Vance doing a tour, and then when he got out, Vance went to Yale and then became a venture capitalist in San Francisco. That is not the story that most people in the Midwest do. Walz came home, used the GI Bill, went to school, and became a teacher, among other things. That, as far as a story, is more resonant with that particular demographic. And I understand the idea that Walz coming across as a liar, and that would be a good argument. However, the stuff that he said was years ago versus a couple of weeks ago, where J.D. Vance says they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
Do you think they're going to swift
That's
vote
a
him?
problem. I don't think they can. I think they tried and they couldn't. They tried already.
Guys from his own unit. I've seen some
tried.
Stuff from the but we also don't see the ads here. Like
we don't. But here's the thing: is that we heard all about it, and then have you heard anything about the military record or anything narrative in large media over the last 6 to 8 weeks? We haven't heard anything, and that tells you exactly how well that narrative resonated. And that's what I told everybody at the time. This is not going to stick. We had. And Hugh Hewitt, who's right before us, he was saying that because of the stolen valor stuff, he thought Walz was going to be yanked from the ticket. He was certain Walz was going to have to be pulled within the next couple of weeks. Didn't happen because that narrative didn't stick. Yeah, and it wasn't, and in part because of who they're running against. Just like the idea that Tim Walz wasn't honest or even lied about when he was at Tiananmen Square. That's okay, but that would be years ago versus the other vice presidential candidate that just said that migrants were eating dogs and cats a few weeks ago. That's a more contemporary lie.
I don't see him as the same at all. One has to do with your military record and your service. One's getting essentially a policy fact.
Well, basically not a policy fact, a fact about what's happening on the ground in a state in which he represents, which is significant. But what's important is the timeline. When you go back and say this person lied about this years ago, is different than saying this person lied about it last week. And all I would say is this: as a parent, if you're coming and talking to your kids about a lie they told you a year ago versus a lie they told you a week ago, there's going to be a different conversation, possibly even different punishment.
Again, I don't see it just because one has to do with how he tells the story about who he is, his service to this country, and the fact that he exaggerated or embellished or claimed that he got this ranking but never actually finished the training for it. That's different than eating dogs and cats. All right. I want to talk to you about my good friend Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer. He's a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted that they're the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm. For serious cases, Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. If you need Dan's help, give him a call at 303-770-5551 or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, CAPLIS Law.com. We'll continue with the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Dude, we got a celebrity in the studio.
Yes, it is.
The first ever 1-ton pumpkin in Colorado history. The firefighter that did it's going to be joining us, Brad Bledsoe, live in studio in the 9 o'clock hour. Isn't that going to be awesome?
That'll be really cool.
We get to hang out with a hero, and he's a record holder. All right, I want to talk this story before we get into Brad Bledsoe, because the wood chipper. Holy cow! This is like out of a night. Colorado man survives losing both legs in a wood chipper accident. John O'Neill says his heart stopped after incident in Longmont, and they essentially replaced all the blood in his body.
Yeah, all of it. Wow.
Broomfield resident John O'Neill has made it out of rehab. He was in stable housing. Oh, shoot. Those pop-up ads are... This is from the Denver Post. He was sober, and he had finally landed a job he loved doing. He was doing tree work. About 15 minutes into his first day, the 33-year-old found himself fighting for his life, gripping the edge of a wood chipper as blades whipped through his legs below. Later, in a helicopter on the way to the hospital, O'Neill technically died. His heart stopped. They essentially replaced all the blood in my body, O'Neill said. On the morning of September 24th, the day after the incident, O'Neill awoke in a hospital bed. He had received about 15 pints of blood and was to be given more. I was in excruciating amount of pain. I felt like my legs were broken. It took me a minute to realize and remember what had just happened. When he looked down, O'Neill saw a bare bedscape. His legs were gone. Then the memories of what happened in Longmont the day before came flooding back to him. I went from a fight for my limb to a fight for my life. At 10:18 a.m. on September 24th, O'Neill just began working the wood chipper in the 900 block of Emory Street in Longmont. He had just put a fish hook-shaped branch into the chipper when the blades flipped the hook of the branch around. The wood got wedged under his court-ordered ankle monitor. Dude.
Yeah, it's spooky.
And began dragging him into the wood chipper. Something happened to my brain to where I realized I was in fear for a lot more than just losing my leg or my foot. In that moment, O'Neill dove up and grabbed the edge of the wood chipper and held on for his life. The pain was it was not there almost, O'Neill recalled. I didn't really feel the pain as much as I knew I was in trouble. I went from a fight for my limb to a fight for my life. Very fast. Blades made clean cuts through his boots, then into his feet, up both legs, and over the knee. I was yelling for help, but everyone had ear protection on. This is like a nightmare. This is like my worst dreams are. It took a minute for my coworkers before they realized what was happening. Even though the incident only lasted a couple of seconds, O'Neill's thoughts were with his loved ones. He even recalled his high school wrestling coach. I thought of my mom, my friends, people who look up to me, and people who needed me, and people who are counting on me, and people who have taught me to fight. It wasn't until the blades hit his mid-thigh that his coworkers were able to pull him out. I looked down and saw something that looked like what you see in movies, O'Neill said. O'Neill saw skin, bone, arteries, muscle tissue, an immense amount of blood flowing from his body. He grabbed a nearby rope and worked with his coworkers to make a makeshift tourniquet. I didn't freak out. I did stay calm, O'Neill said. Adding, my coworkers said I was very cognitive throughout the whole thing. O'Neill said he tried to slow his breathing, to slow his heart rate, to ultimately buy him more time. However, he began to lose consciousness as his colleagues tried to keep him awake with sternum rubs.
Losing all his blood.
I was fading, but my coworkers kept me alive, O'Neill said. O'Neill said the police arrived very quickly and worked to apply tourniquets. He was taken to a local hospital and then flown to St. Anthony in Lakewood via Flight for Life. He firmly believes that if the ankle monitor was not attached to him, he would have been able to get free.
Oh, yeah. Certain of that. Because that's what he talked about. It was a hook-shaped branch, and the branch spun around and then hooked onto the ankle monitor. Oh, yeah. That's awful. That's
Thank God
horror
that
movie
guy
type
was
stuff.
alive. And if you go to the Denver Post, you can read all about it. He's all smiles.
Yeah, and
Seems
it's-
like a fun guy, chill guy.
Well,
just,
in the second half of the
holy cow.
article, he talked about how he stays chatting with mom and saying that this is an opportunity that I can grow from this and I can share a message with people and I can
Yeah.
talk about overcoming adversity. And he's like, this can be a gift that can change my life around, which is crazy to think about that he's going with that. He talked about in the article waking up in the most intense pain he's ever felt, that it wasn't necessarily the time in which it was happening because he was focused on saving his life. So the fight or flight kicks in, the adrenaline kicks in. It's not until afterwards that he started feeling the pain and how excruciating it was. And this is after he woke up in the hospital without having legs below him and then pumping him through with all of the painkiller drugs. And he still was in excruciating pain. So imagine what he was going through.
Text message here from 1712. I had tree trimmers at my house yesterday working. I told them that I pray daily for people who do dangerous jobs. We all should do that. He told me that it's one of the highest injury jobs and more of them die than policemen. I wonder if that's true.
No idea. That's wow.
Yikes.
Get away
Well,
from the
to
wood
all
chipper.
the tree trimmers out there, we love you guys. Stay safe today. Coming up next, Brad Bledsoe is going to join us. He's a firefighter who has the biggest pumpkin in Colorado history. Not going to miss that conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
RockyMountainBargains.com, where you'll always pay half price. Why pay retail when you can get what you want at 50% off? Just go to RockyMountainBargains.com and save. Here's this week's featured item.
A DeWalt Atomic 20-volt max cordless impact driver kit, valued at $160. Get it now for half price.
Get it now at RockyMountainBargains.com for 50% off. RockyMountainBargains.com, where you always pay half price. Restrictions apply. Go to RockyMountainBargains.com for complete details.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Tuesday, October 8th. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you woke up in the greatest country in history, and we're gearing up for a whole nother hour of engaging discussions, critical analysis, and most importantly, your calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment, Firefighter. We already love them. They're the heroes. Grows Colorado's first 1-ton pumpkin. Breaks his own record. This is a stud, and he is in studio with us. Brad Bledsoe is going to be joining us just in a second to talk about what it takes to grow a 1-ton pumpkin. This is crazy. We'll get to him in a second. But first, news and comment with Blake Olson. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. This would help with that.
You were just thinking about that 1-ton pumpkin, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. I was thinking about the pumpkin seeds in the oven. Nothing better than the pumpkin seeds. Those are good. Those are good. I always mess them up, though. But, man, they're good if you get the right one. Crispy, almost.
You watch football on Sunday with some
yeah.
pumpkin?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right, here we go. 56 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 81 today. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story.
If Kamala will lie to you so brazenly about Joe Biden's mental incapacity, then she will lie to you about anything. She can never, ever be trusted. She can't be trusted. Head hate on me. Can't stop DJT, and I ain't going nowhere, so you can get to know me.
Yeah, former President Trump returns to Colorado, this time to the Front Range. He'll hold a campaign rally Friday afternoon at 1 in Aurora at the Gaylord Rockies Resort and Convention Center. Tickets available. Trump claims that the city has turned into a war zone because of the violent Venezuelan prison gang members terrorizing apartment complexes, and the neighbors would agree with him, but not the mayor. Sam Bandimere is running for Senate in District 19. He has served his country 2 tours in Vietnam, and has something that a lot of us call common sense. He broke it down with Jeff and Bill last hour.
I'm running to restore fiscal responsibility and limited government to Colorado. Specifically, my priorities are, number 1, to repeal the Colorado bag law and make it convenient to go shopping again. And by the way, we're getting great traction on that issue. I also want to reduce and control property taxes, eliminate state taxes that are masquerading as fees, encourage the development and adoption of a net zero energy program, and reduce our carbon emissions.
Yes, I love it. He also wants to repeal laws and regulations that hinder the oil and gas industry in Colorado. A man who was shot and killed by Aurora police last week was not carrying an AR-15 rifle when he encountered police. Police Chief Todd Chamberlain announced on Monday that the suspect was holding a weapon, but that it was identified after the shooting as a tactical air rifle. Kamala Khan getting hugged up by 3 shows today. The Howard Stern Show, who's a big lefty now. He did blackface and dropped the N-bomb a whole lot years ago and was never canceled by the lefties. That's amazing. Wonder if they'll talk about that subject. Not. She's doing The View. Lots of giggles there. And then Stephen thinks he's funny, Colbert. She was on 60 Minutes, and Bill Whitaker curious about the southern border.
There was an historic flood of undocumented immigrants coming across the border the first 3 years of your administration. As a matter of fact, arrivals quadrupled from the last year of President Trump. Was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies as much as you did?
It's a long-standing problem. And solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally, we have been offering solutions.
What I was asking was, Was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem.
Yeah, whatever. Florida's Gulf Coast is about to be slammed by Hurricane Milton, and people are being ordered to evacuate. President Biden is canceling his trip to Europe and Africa since the Category 4 storm is expected to hit tomorrow night or early Thursday.
Is he heading to the beach?
Yeah,
Delaware?
good question. No, I don't think
It's
he's
called
actually
a
going to go
phone, Blake. It's called a phone.
It's a phone, okay? I can handle it. Yeah, so you'll see a totally different response. He'll probably be in Mobile or something, camping out and being ready to.
Do you see those guys with the
Gulf
with the little donkeys that were in North Carolina?
Did see that. What was that all about?
Well,
I just saw the video.
Because the roads are all busted in North Carolina, Western North
I
Carolina.
see.
It's all mountains. They were using
Right.
burros and donkeys and horses.
Yeah.
And these guys screw FEMA. We're just
Wow.
going in to help, right? They just wanted to go help. And that could be a good image for Joe Biden. I could get behind
think
that.
so.
Just bring
No, I
some
think so.
donkeys. Get out there and pull some donkeys along.
Hey, did you see the FEMA helicopters flying over the relief tables? Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
So, I mean, this is wild. I mean, if it's true, so they were trying to basically, they say, I mean, reports say they're trying to disrupt the relief that was being organized by, private citizens, and FEMA's flying the helicopters over them. Everything's flying everywhere, disrupting everything. Now, I don't know if that's true. I haven't read anything more on that, but there were 2 or 3 different accounts. They wanted to take credit for it, and they didn't want the private citizens taking care of it.
That sounds like the government. We talked about this yesterday on the show, that there were a series of private helicopters that came in, tried to provide help, and it wasn't necessarily FEMA, but local law enforcement said, if you continue to provide help, we're going to arrest you. And I understand that you don't want to, we don't want to air-to-air collisions, right? You got all these people flying around, but one of the challenges were that the Blackhawks were too big. They couldn't land, especially in the mountainous areas. So these small little private helicopters became really important for people to get into North Carolina. But I understand you don't want collisions, that type of stuff. But
no, I get it. But people are dying.
People are trying to help. That's right.
Right. No doubt about it.
Joe
expecting
Biden and burros. That's what I want to see.
That's right. I think that'd be a good photo op. They're expecting winds as high as 155 miles per hour. So how about the FEMA relief, Green Jean-Pierre?
So disaster relief, this is a falsehood. Disaster relief funds used on immigrants illegally in the U.S. The fact is, no money is being diverted from response needs. That's the fact.
That's funny, because Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, before the hurricane season.
We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
Okay, there you go. And finally, JD Vance, he keeps crushing it out of the park for me. Heard this one about my least favorite, Liz Cheney.
By the way, I've been asked by some folks about, to comment on Liz Cheney. I think we just traded Liz Cheney for Tulsi Gabbard. That's the biggest upgrade in American politics, and I'm awfully happy about it.
Yeah, so am I. 53 in Castle Rock, 54 in Centennial, 56 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue on this Tuesday morning. Blake Olson, News Talk, 710 KNUS.
Good morning, Denver. Your 710 5-day forecast. Once again, mostly sunny skies for today. Highs will be in the lower 80s with partly cloudy skies tonight, and lows going to be in the lower and mid-50s. Expect lower 80s for Wednesday and Thursday. A few spots might even hit the mid-80s. Continued mostly sunny and dry. Lows low and mid-50s. Low 80s on Friday. Weather brought to you by branchplanning.com. Secure your retirement plans with a free review to help provide asset protection, long-term care, or income income for life. Get your review at branchplanning.com or call 303-219-0088. Meteorologist Don Watzel in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. So a firefighter from Aurora for the heaviest pumpkin has beat that record with another pumpkin weighing over 1 ton. This is from Fox News, Fox 31. Brad Bledsoe, a fire medic with Aurora Fire Rescue, broke the state record with a pumpkin that weighed 1,955 pounds late last month. The next weekend, another grower, how dare he, presented a pumpkin that was 21 pounds heavier. At that point, that's like the stem, right? When you're dealing with a 2,000-pound pumpkin and it gained 21 pounds, that's just a small part of the pumpkin. But on Saturday, that's got to feel good, Brad, to walk in and have a new record pumpkin. By the way, you named it Winifred Sanderson. A nod to the popular Halloween film Hocus Pocus, became the first in Colorado history to weigh over 1 ton. The dude's joining us live in studio. I feel honored. Thanks, Brad, for being on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Well, thank you for having me.
So if you tune in onto our YouTube, Rumble, or X accounts, you can see what Brad looks like. We also have a picture of you standing victoriously on top of this giant pumpkin. I have so many questions. This is going to be fun. First, let's talk about the picture there. You look pretty pumped.
Yeah, I was super excited to win it, and more importantly, get the state record back and be the first 1 ton pumpkin in Colorado.
Wow. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. All right. How do you get into record pumpkin growing?
So it all started in 2020. We had this area of our front yard that just wasn't landscaped to what I wanted it to be. Had a nice front yard, nice backyard, but we just had this area of grass in the front yard that was kind of just a waste of space. And I was talking to my wife, Stacy, and I was like, what should we do with this? And she was like, sometimes when we've done the pumpkins, they just kind of grow into the yard. And I was like, she was like, why don't you plant a pumpkin? And I was like, well, let's do a giant pumpkin. So we grew a pumpkin that weighed about 195 pounds that year. And it was like the pride of the neighborhood because it's right there in the front yard. I was like, this is a big deal. So I decided to take it to a weigh off, and ends up being one of the smallest pumpkins there. And my daughter, who's 4 at the time, she goes, Dad, why is your pumpkin so small? And I was like, okay, this has got my competitive juices flowing.
Especially when your kids say it, right?
Exactly.
Like, Dad, you're not measuring up to everybody else.
Yeah. So then that next year I was able to grow a 1,700 pound pumpkin in that same spot. And
so you went from 195 to 1,700 pounds.
Correct.
In 1 year.
In 1 year.
Now, are these different types of pumpkins than the ones that like you pick up at King Soopers or something?
Yeah, they're a little bit different. They're called Atlantic giant pumpkins.
Okay.
So they're a little different than typically what you see at the store, which are filled pumpkins. So they have a softer skin and a soft stem that allows them to keep growing for 90 to 120 days.
All right. So different pumpkin. So was the first grand pumpkin you built, the one that was 195 pounds, was that the Atlantic grand pumpkin too?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what made the difference? How did you go from 195 to 1,700 in 1 year?
Well, the first pumpkin was just like a Walmart seed, right? So just a generic Atlantic giant seed. And then the next year I went on to these auction sites that are on bigpumpkins.com, and I bid on something that's supposed to have really good genetics. So
interesting.
So it's kind of like buying a cow. Like you buy certain genetics. Same thing with pumpkins. You buy different genetics, hoping that that's the next potential world record seed.
So it's like buying like a horse race in like the sire of a racehorse or something.
Exactly.
Wow. And is it expensive?
The seed, I think it cost me like $55 for one seed.
That's not too bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
Like, so, but if somebody grows a world record, and that seed is now worth probably $800 to $1,000.
Wow. So what's the difference between what you got at 1 ton and a world record pumpkin?
I think climate's probably the biggest deal.
But what's the weight difference?
Weight difference is actually like 700 pounds. So the world record's 2,749 pounds.
And where were those grown? Do you know?
That was Minnesota. Anoka, Minnesota is where the world record is. And prior to that, it was Italy. And then probably like the best growing area is maybe Wisconsin. They have so many pumpkins that they grow over 2,000 pounds. It's not even a big deal to them.
But what makes the difference? Is it fertilizer? Is it soil? Is it sun? Is it water? What?
It's all of the above.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, first off, they have great soil. Like, you know, we go out here and dig, and our 2 inches of topsoil doesn't even compare to their like 6 feet of just great dirt. And then next it's climate. So they're cooler in the day, you know, they're mid 80s, and then at night they stay warmer. So all of that kind of equates to like more pounds. So when it gets below 60 degrees here in Colorado, pumpkin weights slow down. So kind of at a disadvantage, but we were able to finally get that 1 ton pumpkin.
Yeah. And so tell us about your process. You plant it in the springtime, and do you just water it, or do you use fertilizer, or do you come up with your own mixture? Is there Brad's special mixture that got this?
Yeah, there's all kinds of different fertilizers that I feed it. So we start indoors April 10th, 2 weeks inside under lights, and then 2 weeks later, April 24th, we plant it outside in kind of like a little mini hoop house that has a little space heater that runs at night to try to keep things warm. And then it's basically a ton of water. And then every time I water, it gets some sort of fertilizer. And a lot of times that's just like biological products, like Root-Wise, or there's other products out there that just really feed the soil microbes, and that allows the nutrients to be more readily available for the pumpkin. And then once we have a pumpkin to like 20 days old, we start to feed a lot more synthetic fertilizer, just to make sure that it's getting everything that it needs.
Yeah, right. I mean, you got to manage it. At that point, it's like a well-trained athlete, right? You got to get the mixture right in order for it to get the right size. So you do the first one, you show up the second year, 1,700 pound weight, and then you're like, I'm going to get into this and start competing, right?
Right.
And your family's like, go, Dad, go. Your wife had no issue with this, or kids, or anything like this. Has it become like a whole family activity?
It 100% is a whole family activity.
That is cool. I love that.
So like when I'm at work for 24 hours, my wife waters and keeps an eye on the pumpkins.
That's right. She asked to, right? I didn't even think about that. You're a firefighter. This isn't a 9 to 5.
Yeah. And then the kids, like, because you have to bury the vines, because that creates to like more root structure for these pumpkins. So I take the kids out and we make big buckets of dirt, and like basically it's like making mud pies for them. So they love it. They get dirty, and then we're just having fun all summer long, just watching these things grow.
That is fun. Okay, so tell me about competition time. All right, the fall comes around. Is there a tour? Are there like set competitions that are like the most elite pumpkin weighing competitions in America?
Yeah, so we have 4 weigh-offs in Colorado. We have
Okay.
Jared's Nursery in Littleton, Nick's in Aurora, Fort Collins Nursery, and then there's one in Peyton, Colorado. But there are some, like, there's Half Moon Bay, which is coming up following, I think it's the 14th on a Monday, and it's by Safeway. But that's like the Super Bowl of pumpkin growing. That's where a lot of the big pumpkins grow, the world record pumpkin. So if you break a world record in Half Moon Bay, they pay $30,000 for that pumpkin.
Wow. And then they like sell the seeds apparently, or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And where's that one again? Where's the Half Moon Bay one?
It's just south of San Francisco.
Okay, so that's in California. So you would actually have to load it onto a truck and drive it all the way out there. Have you traveled that far for a pumpkin weigh-in?
I did this year.
Okay.
So our first pumpkin, Mary Sanderson, ended up weighing 1955, but we had a mouse bite on it. And
yeah,
that spot.
What is that? Like,
so,
just a mouse just came by and took a chunk out of it?
Yeah, sometimes when it starts to get cold, these mice will like find their way in by like the pumpkins because it provides them some shelter and some heat. So they'll like burrow underneath, but then they get the wise idea of like, oh, this is food. So they start nibbling on them. So we try to prevent that. And I actually didn't see it. My wife saw it. She was out there checking the pumpkin for me. And she's like, hey, there's a spot on Mary you might want to check out. And so I go over there and there's a little soft spot. And this pumpkin's over 100 days old, which is old in pumpkin terms.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if this is going to heal up. Our way off is in 2 weeks. I don't know if we're going to make it. So I scraped it out, sprayed it with hydrogen peroxide and alcohol, trying to get it to dry. And I placed like a duct fan there to just blow air on it constantly. And I was like, let's see where the closest GPC or way off is, which is basically your governing body for all these giant pumpkins. And I was like, our closest is in Southern California, which is 15 hours away. So I loaded that pumpkin up on a Wednesday night, took off Thursday morning, drove halfway to St. George, Utah, stayed the night, actually, and kept my pumpkin in another pumpkin grower's shop that night. So it was safe. Pick it up and then drove.
Because you don't want like birds and stuff to get to it or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So you drove it to it. So there's like a community of pumpkin growers. I feel like this is a documentary, Bill, that
Yes.
could have. You remember the documentary of the dogs, and I forget his name, who does the funny documentaries, but the Westminster Dog Show,
Yeah.
and like there's a whole intense community.
Oh, yeah,
like
there is.
you guys networked pumpkin growers so you could use his shop on the way to St. George.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it.
Another grower in Utah. I was talking to him on the way down and he's like, hey, my brother lives in St. George. So just pull it into this shop. And then when I was in Southern California, I stayed at another pumpkin grower's house. So didn't have to, and my pumpkin's nice and safe in front of his house in Mission Viejo. And then, we actually broke the site record there, broke the state record. And then, then the next week, Chad New, a grower out of Parker, beat my record, and then we took it back last week. So it's been entertaining, considering like in the last 8 years there was only one record change, and now this year there's been 3.
That is crazy. I mean, it is. It's a whole operation. So how do you load them onto the trucks? You have to bring in a full crane, and then if they get damaged, that's a problem. I imagine that's a pretty stressful moment when you actually pick a 2,000-pound pumpkin off the ground.
Yeah. So the first one we actually craned out because I have a little like high tunnel, and it was right in the middle of my other 2 pumpkins that were still very actively growing.
So you have 3 total.
3 total.
Okay.
So we craned that one out and put it on the trailer. And then last weekend, my buddy came over with his skid steer and we were able to easily load it onto the trailer. And then we'll do that again this weekend for the way off in Fort Collins.
Wow, that is a process. We're talking with Brad Bledsoe. He's a firefighter here in Aurora who holds the world or the Colorado state record. Someday maybe the world record, but the Colorado state record has grown the first ever 1-ton pumpkin. If you have any text messages or if you have any questions for him, feel free to call us 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115 at 720-819-5115. I want to talk to you all about my good friends over at QC Kinetics. Look, you don't have to keep living with that joint pain. Real lasting relief is possible with help from QC Kinetics. People here are getting their lives back, getting their mobility back thanks to QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in cellular therapies that can revitalize your joints. I'm talking about advanced regenerative medicine, using your own body's healing properties, highly concentrated and carefully placed in your achy joints. Back pain, shoulder pain, knee pain, these are cutting-edge treatments that require no surgery, no drugs, and no downtime. It's a quick in-office procedure that can get you moving again. These protocols have been developed by medical professionals and under the leadership of Dr. Mitchell Scheinkup, a former orthopedic surgeon and a pioneer in clinical regenerative medicine. Listen, is arthritic joint pain keeping you from doing the things you love? Pain in your knees, hips, back, or shoulder? You owe it to yourself to learn more. Call QC Kinetics today for a free consultation, 303-900-8986. That's 303-900-8986. 886. We'll continue our conversation with Brad Bledsoe, firefighter and Colorado pumpkin record holder, live in studio. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us live in studios, Brad Bledsoe. He's a fire medic with Aurora Fire Rescue and record-breaking pumpkin grower. He grew a pumpkin that broke 1 ton. That's over 2,000 pounds. And it was weighed at the Giant Pumpkin Weigh-Off at Nick's Garden Center and Farm Market in Aurora. Brad, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So I got to ask, there was a guy that took the record briefly because you had it at 1,955 pounds last month. And then some dude took it and then you took it back. Tell me about the relationship between the pumpkin growers. Is it, you guys pretty competitive?
We are competitive, but it's a super tight-knit community. We always ask each other, there's always things that pop up that you haven't dealt with and you're hoping another pumpkin grower has dealt with. So you can always reach out to one of these guys and they'll be more than happy to answer any questions or even tell you what their fertilizer plan is, even though you want to beat them.
Fertilizer plan. That's so cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, this grower's out of Parker. He was actually the previous record holder. So I beat his record. His old record was 1783. I broke it. He broke it back. And now I've got it. Also, this spring, my rototiller broke. So Chad reached out and was like, hey, why don't you just borrow my rototiller? And it's still at my house. And I think he's going to pick it up after this weekend's weigh off. So, I mean, that's how tight-knit it is. So
that is cool. Speaking of that, we did get a text message from the fetching Stacy, who is your wife, who wanted to know, could you ask Brad a question for me? I believe it was, does he want me to water the pumpkin before he gets home this morning?
And that answer is yes. Can you please water Stacy?
I love it. I love it. Stacy texted the station here at 720-819-5115 right here into the studio. All right. So $1 million question. What do you do with a pumpkin after you weigh it?
So right now the state record holder is at Bartles Farm in Fort Collins. It's just on display. Once they get a couple days before Halloween, they'll actually give it back and we'll carve it as a family. So we'll put I'll let the kids make a face on it and then I'll have to cut out those holes with a chainsaw and then we'll harvest the seeds to either sell or use. And eventually after that, we take it over to CSU. They've got, they're raising like just some bison over there. So we take it over there and feed them because they've been a lot of help to the patch in the past.
So you said sell the seeds. Is this a big money loser? Is it a big investment you guys have to make as a family? And you just kind of wash it off as that. You're like, look, this is something we do as a family. Or can you actually make your money back by selling the seeds?
You know, with everything, with some way off money and selling some seeds, the goal is to hopefully break even.
That's not bad.
If we put a little bit of money in the bank, then it just goes right back into the pumpkin patch. Yeah. So, but hopefully break even.
That is fun. Man, talking with Brad Bledsoe, a fire medic here in Aurora, Colorado, has broken the state record. So where do you go from here? You got the state record. Do you just keep growing that? Or do you have your eyes set on the big one, the American record, the world record?
I mean, next would be the regional record. Okay. So there's been a little bit bigger of a pumpkin grown in Utah, and that would be on the sights to break next. And then if we're able to do that, then I guess we have the sights on breaking the world record.
It'd be fun for Colorado to have that, but the soil, I've learned so much today, Billy.
Yeah. Now, Brett, I want to talk to you. Are pumpkins the only thing that you grow? Is there anything else in and around the homestead that you grow?
Last year, we actually grew the state record tall sunflower at 18 foot 3 inches.
You grew an 18-foot sunflower?
Yes, sir.
Wow. Yeah. That's like almost 2 stories.
Yeah, it was supported with 30 foot of white PVC pole that I had pounded into the ground.
Yeah.
And so Stacy, my wife, had come home and she goes, oh my goodness, what are you doing? Like, because you can obviously see these poles from a long ways away. And she's like, this is a little over the top.
Gotten involved yet?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, with that sunflower, is it the same type of watering and fertilizer care that goes into the pumpkin, or do you have to alternate it? Did you just say, well, this worked for pumpkins, it's got to work for sunflowers?
The only difference with the sunflowers was a little bit more nitrogen heavy. But most days, especially early on, I just took what we were feeding the pumpkin, took a few, like a gallon or two out of that watering tank and went over and fed the sunflowers.
Now, I did have a text message, and I know you addressed it earlier, but I wanted to kind of circle back. They wanted to know when you start growing your pumpkins, and also outline the fact that they're inside. But we had a question on the text messages and wanting to know when you started this project.
Yeah, so we start seeds inside April 10th, and then 2 weeks later, April 24th is when we go outside with them. So, and then have to protect them from the frost for a couple weeks.
That was my next question. So Brad Bledsoe, fire medic, also Colorado's pumpkin record holder, largest pumpkin in Colorado, grown by the gentleman joining us here on the Jeff and Bill Show. We know that early frost here in Colorado can be deadly for crops. Anybody that's had a fruit tree or been growing something in the backyard, we always talk about don't plant your flowers until after Mother's Day. You're starting before Mother's Day, my friend. How do you protect against the frost? And what do you do in order to ensure that these pumpkins are still going to get the best start possible?
So I start them in like a 4x6 hoop house that's covered in plastic. And then at night, I basically put a blanket over top of this plastic and throw a little small space heater. It's like a little 400-watt space heater, and try to keep the temps over 55 degrees just so that we can start to grow. But sometimes when you're really growing well, it grows outside of this hoop house, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, we're in frost danger and we no longer have protection. So then we have to build a second structure that's even bigger.
Oh, wow. Now, you heard that, Jeff. He said he goes out and tucks his pumpkins in at night. He puts a blankie over them, a little heater, and then he reads them a story.
This is a commitment.
Yes, it is.
And the record-winning one was named Winifred Sanderson, which was the witch played by Bette Midler.
Yeah.
In Hocus Pocus.
Yes.
Who comes up with the names?
So the family does. They get to name the pumpkins every year. So I just stay out of that. So this year, because we grew 3,
The girls do? The girls and your wife?
Yeah, the girls and the wife do. So they agreed to name them after the Hocus Pocus sisters. So we have Sarah, Mary, and Winnie this year.
How much do we have to pay to get Pumpkin McPumpkinface as one of them? Just because we had Bodie McBoatface, so we should have Pumpkin McPunkface. We should.
I like it.
Now, also, I want to talk to you, Brad Bledsoe. When you were growing these pumpkins, you've grown the record holder here in Colorado. What is something that was unexpected, something that was a challenge you ran into growing these pumpkins, something that you wish you knew earlier on that by now, heck, you may have been a world record holder, if only for what? What messed you up early on?
Oh, man. I can just tell you about a little bit of drama. But so I built a high tunnel this year for the 3 pumpkins, and I'd put the plastic on it like middle of April, getting ready for the pumpkin season. Brought over a crew of like 12 people to get this plastic on because it's big. It's a pain to get on. And then 5 days later, we had a really, really bad windstorm. So we had sustained winds of 70 miles an hour for like 12 hours. And eventually that plastic gave way and blew away. And then the next time, so I ordered new plastic, and the plastic came and it's the wrong size. And now we're up against of like, are we going to have this ready to plant this year? And then a week later, we were able to get the plastic on, and we haven't had any other issues. As far as like growing a giant pumpkin, I wish I had known that you had to bury the vines earlier, or we could have had a much bigger pumpkin. So basically at every leaf, if you bury the vine right there, there's 2 roots that can pop out. So basically, if my square footage for each plant is 900 square feet. So there's roots all the way through there. But if you don't bury the vines, then you just have roots right at the stump.
And that helps with nutrition and growth, because the more roots, the more nutrients and stuff and water they can pull out of the soil, which allows you a larger growing pumpkin, which is why when Jeff and I are growing our pumpkins in our backyard, they suck. Pretty much.
I don't grow anything. My wife grows stuff. I don't grow anything. Just like, hey, fresh fruit. All right. And vegetables.
It's come from the store.
Where'd this come from?
Yeah,
that's right. We're talking with Brad Bledsoe. I want to continue this conversation, but first I want to tell you about Colorado Christian University's exclusive luncheon and lecture on Friday, November 15th, featuring the 48th Vice President of the United States, Mike Pence, and his wife, former Second Lady Karen Pence. In partnership with the Centennial Institute and CCU President Eric Hogue, this event offers a unique opportunity to engage in conversation with Vice President Pence, one of America's most dedicated public servants, sharing his insights on the future of the conservative movement. Remember, this is going to be right after the election. You can hear right from Mike Pence. Be among the first to experience the new Armstrong Center as CCU launches its President Speaker Series on this historic occasion. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. Limited tickets are available for breakfast with Karen Pence, lunch with Mike Pence, and morning and evening lectures. Throughout the day, you'll engage in conversations on leadership, faith, and service with these. Join CCU on November 15th for these events with Mike and Karen Pence. Go to ccu.edu/Pence to get tickets and learn more. That's ccu.edu/Pence. We'll continue our conversation with Brad Bledsoe. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us live in studio is Brad Bledsoe. He's a fire medic with Aurora Fire Rescue who broke the state record with a pumpkin that weighs 2,083 pounds. And he waited at the giant pumpkin weigh-off here at Nick's Garden Center and Farm Market in Aurora. I mean, congratulations, Brad. It's got to be so cool to be able to have a world or a Colorado state record. Now, as we wrap up here, if people want to go see the pumpkin, where could they see it?
Yeah, so Winnie's going to be on display at Bartle's Pumpkin Patch in Fort Collins. We do have one more pumpkin to get weighed this weekend. No plans on where Sarah will be, but
you don't know. You don't want to guess? She seem a little bigger, a little thicker?
She is measuring bigger. So
oh, boy.
Whether or not she's heavier, that is a question. But yeah, we haven't made any plans on where we're going to have her displayed. Maybe we'll find somewhere down in Denver that wants to have a pumpkin on display for a little bit of a price.
And if people want to follow you on Instagram, see the journey, because you get, what I love is you got your whole family involved. You got your wife, you got your girls. If they wanted to follow you on Instagram, how do they do that?
Yeah, my handle is the Gourd Father. Nice nickname, termed by one of the stations in Aurora. They called me the Pumpkin King one day, and I was like, "Oh, you guys got to come up with something better."
How do you spell Gourd Father?
Gourd.
Gourd. Okay, the Gourd Father, and they can follow you there. That's awesome. And then if people wanted to buy the seeds or be a part,
yeah, just send me a message on Instagram.
I went to the Gourd Father, and it looks not like you.
Is there?
I've got.
Are you gonna get in trouble with HR again?
There is. There's a dude wearing a mask, so maybe I might have spelled the Gourd Father wrong.
Jeff's on one of those no sites now. We're all in trouble. We are on so much trouble. And if you're watching us on the YouTubes and the Rumbles and the Twitters and stuff, running pictures right now for you to take a look at pictures of the pumpkin that Brad Bledsoe grew and breaking the record. So you can join us there, take a look at the images on the YouTubes, the Twitters, the Rumbles, the X's, whatever
so
the hell
it is the Gourd Father, but don't do Instagram / the Gourd Father. Finds a guy that's a little out of weight and overweight wearing Batman masks.
Oh, you mean you found my page? Sorry, I
well
couldn't help
done.
that one. Thank you.
So Gourd Father, and that would be Instagram just / Gourd Father. Don't put the in front of it, although that is the title, or maybe there's an underscore there. Anyways, just type in Gourd Father. Growing giant pumpkins in altitude, Colorado, which has got to make it a little bit more challenging than what Wisconsin, Minnesota does, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that sun makes a difference. The sun's more intense. It burns the leaves a little bit more. It's definitely a challenge.
Yeah, anybody that's been through the Midwest, especially Wisconsin, during spring to summer, understands they even grow their insects bigger. It's a little spooky. It's really spooky. Everything's bigger there and green. It's got to be a challenge. How does it make you feel, Brad, when you are able to compete with other growers that you would say would have an advantage based on their climate? You're able to produce these massive pumpkins facing challenges they don't. It's got to make you feel good.
It feels great. But it also makes me want to move somewhere and be like, hey, could we actually grow like a 3,000-pound pumpkin somewhere else?
Oh, that's got to be hard. Yeah, and then coming to the family and saying, hi, honey, hi, daughters, we're moving to grow pumpkins. That's an interesting conversation to have. I'm glad you having it, not me.
I love this picture of you and your family with the girls on top of the pumpkin.
Oh, thank you.
Sweet.
Yeah, right after. So the girls will always pose with pictures on top of them, but they always want to play on top of the pumpkin. And I say, as soon as the weigh off is over, feel free.
Yes.
That's right. It's a big jungle gym.
That's right.
That is fun. Well, Brad Bledsoe, thanks again for taking time to join us live in studio.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
He's a firefighter. So you visit his Instagram account and you got a good looking firefighter hero dude talking about pumpkins, plus the family aspect, plus the Colorado world record holder. It all comes together. This dude's saving lives in Colorado and growing record pumpkins. You're a stud, man.
That's amazing.
Thanks for being on the show,
Yeah,
Brad.
thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate this. We grew pumpkins in my backyard growing up, and nothing even close to what you've got. Not even close. We were lucky if we got something that was 20
I did
pounds.
things I can't talk about on air about pumpkins. Mostly smashing them. There's a band named after what I did with pumpkins in the neighborhood.
Maybe during that tween years, my friends and I had a thing about if you gave out the bad candy at Halloween, something may happen to your pumpkins. I'm just saying, you're giving us those popcorn balls. Pumpkin might not last the night.
There you
Just
go. So we've had a fantastic show. If you missed any of it, go to 710knus.com. You can download the podcast there. We talked the Kamala Harris interview. Sam Bandimere is running for state Senate in Senate District 19, which includes Arvada, joined us on the program as well. And then we talked about the dude in the wood chipper.
Oh, that's scary.
Like nightmares. Go listen to that.
That's just scary.
Brad would have been good to rescue him there. All right, you've been listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.